All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Wargames Podcast number 34. So joining me is a whole fucking host of miscreants tonight. We got Melius with us, Myers, McCoy, and Salvatore.
Oh.
Good evening, gentlemen. How's everyone doing this fine Wednesday?
Fucking fantastic, thanks.
Fucking outstanding, thank you.
All right, so got a few different things to talk about tonight. First thing I wanted to very quickly touch on was I know Melius did because me and him were talking about it just before we went live there. But did any of the rest of you guys see that video that Lion posted today on the forums of the guy running around in the M113?
Fuck yeah.
I seen it.
I was laughing my fucking ass off. Not so much because of the of what happened per se. Anybody that hadn't seen it, I think it was in Virginia, right? Anybody remember?
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess this guy stole an M113 from the National Guard Armory, and ended up leading the police on a 2-hour fucking low-speed pursuit, I guess. Those things only do about 40 miles an hour. But there's, videos of it all over online and stuff, and there was one part of this video that I loved where it shows them going through an intersection, and there's a police cruiser, I don't know, probably 100 meters or so out in front of the vehicle, kind of clearing intersections and shit like that, just making sure people are out of the way so he doesn't run them over. And then here comes the M113 rolling through. And then behind it, I shit you not, was a scene straight out of the Blues Brothers. I mean, there is every bit of like 40 fucking police cruisers following this thing. And like,
Oh my god.
dude, it's fucking hilarious. I mean, it's straight up out of the Blues Brothers. Like, I was waiting to see if fucking megaphones on top of the M113. And I just remember thinking, like, is there like nothing else going on in this town at this time? Because they have the entirety of the fucking police force there chasing this thing that they can't stop. Like, why did they need that many cars fucking following it? Like, what are they gonna do?
Could you say no?
Yeah, true.
Could
True.
you say no to that call over the radio, right?
Like, nah, I'm on lunch. Like, no, fuck that. I'm about to go watch a guy driving M113 through downtown. But it was settled, I guess, the best it could be. I'm guessing it ended up running out of gas, and he got out of it, and they were able to arrest him. And I'm not sure whether or not... I mean, National Guard, they have to have some type of security force on the base, some type of MP or something. So some of the cars probably belong to them. But yeah, they were able to get him out of it and arrest him and all of that. So, and that's what I was going to bring up there, Jal, was years ago, a guy had stolen an M1 Abrams and ran it through, I guess it was San Diego. I couldn't remember where it was. I thought it was somewhere out in California, but yeah, San Diego. And then his dumbass got it stuck. He high-sided it on some K-rails on the fucking highway. And yeah, I remember, and that's why I remember it, Jal, is that it didn't end well. Because he didn't come out of the vehicle, and they ran up and got the hatch open and just started fucking dumping rounds into it. And ended up killing him. But that's somebody in my Discord had mentioned, well, at least it wasn't an M1. And I was like, well, actually, years ago, somebody did exactly that. And yeah, they ended up killing his ass. Oh, was that a Patton? That was an M60? I thought it was an Abrams. But yeah, so it was just, I don't know, it was kind of funny that they had that many cop cars following it and shit. And it's like, I actually remember quite a few years ago, because we used to have a National Guard armory here in Flint. They've since closed it down years ago. But years and years and years back, they actually got robbed. This tells you how fucked up my hometown is. When they robbed the fucking National Guard armory. And they got away with a fuck ton of weapons. And I'm talking like they stole a fucking M134 Gatling gun and shit. Where in the fuck that thing ended up, who knows. And I don't think they ever ended up catching the guys that did it, is the fucked up thing. So yeah, I remember that and being pretty freaked out because some of the ordnance that they got away with, it was just like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, that shit's out on the street, And how in the fuck are these guys not caught or dead? Like, that's insane. Yeah, it's, as Caldwell says in the chat, 240 Bravo, not such a big deal now, along with the Mark 19 ammo. But you guys are still going to get shit for it for a long, long time. Did you guys ever hear about that? About the Air Force Security Forces losing munitions and weapon systems?
No. No, I hadn't heard of that one.
It's pretty big news, at least in the military community. They had lost a 240, and then they ended up losing like an entire box of Mark 19 rounds, which is obviously not great. They're gonna get their balls busted for it for a long time. You know, people are already on the fucking Air Force's balls quite a bit, you know. But losing that definitely didn't help. But when you put it in
Perspective.
yeah, exactly. Like, it's all relative, man. Like,
For sure.
you know, yeah, recently they, you know, lost a couple of things that, you know, quote unquote fell off the back of a truck. But when you put it in relation to the amount of shit that other forces have misplaced, it's nothing. Plus, we just had fucking M113 stolen from a goddamn National Guard armory, so I'm sure the Army National Guard will be, you know, hearing about that one for a while. So, like I said, just wanted to kind of briefly mention that, because, yeah, it was kind of real life
Fun.
imitating Hollywood there for a minute. It just didn't have a police car with Belushi in it. It was just an M113 rolling through downtown. So the next thing I wanted to talk about real quick, I already asked Melius this, and I already know the answer for Myers because he can't. But I had somebody recently ask me about carrying, because I carry every day, and about like carrying one in the pipe, as in a round in the chamber. So I guess McCoy, you would be the only one. Sal, I don't even know if it's legal for you guys to carry there.
I can. Yeah, I can.
You can? Do you
Yep.
carry? 'Cause
Yeah,
I know
I carry.
I know you are military.
Yeah.
So you carry like every day, or only when you're, well, obviously when you're on duty, it's a little
Almost
different.
every day.
So what's your daily carry?
Glock 19. No.
Okay. And what about you, McCoy? Do you carry? Is McCoy even there? I think he might have said, yeah, he had to go. All right, so Sal, you carry every day, and as I said, you are military. I actually remember not that long ago, you hit what it was like the equivalent of staff sergeant, right? Like E6.
Yeah, sergeant first class equivalent.
Oh, okay, so E7 equivalent.
Yep.
So carrying every day, being military, obviously having the training. And I remember we've talked a couple of times about some of the crazy fucking training you guys have had to go through when it was like stupid. But so do you carry with one in the pipe or no?
No, I'm not allowed.
Oh, you're not allowed to. Okay, so that's mandated by law. That's not something that you decide.
I gotta carry one magazine with blanks, second magazine in my wherever I put it with live fire ammunition.
Oh, okay.
I have to change out when situation dependent.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yep.
So if given the choice, would you carry with one in the chamber?
Yes.
Okay. Which I do as well. It's never really been a debate or like a conundrum for me whether or not I was gonna carry with one in the chamber. Yeah, I've always had that mindset. You know, if you're carrying a fucking weapon, it's because, you know, you potentially need to use it, and if I need to use it, I need to use it now, not, you know, a few seconds from now. Like, I need it when I pull it. So it never really made sense to me to, you know, not have one in the chamber. Obviously, like I said, in your situation, you don't have a fucking choice. At least it's not as bad as like California, where you can carry, but you can't even have a magazine in the weapon. So the thing, though, to me is, you know, it was like it was said to me, well, you know, I'm not comfortable having one in the chamber because, you know, I'm worried that something could happen and this and that. And it's like, okay, look, firstly, my weapon stays loaded at all times. Even when it's sitting in my safe, it's loaded. It's ready to go. Again, it's pointless for me to have it if it's not ready to use when I need it. I've had that 1911 for, let me see, 6 years? A little over 6 years. And it has never gone off once without me pulling the trigger.
The 1911 has that pistol, that grip safety on it too, right?
Yeah, it's got what they call a beaver tail safety.
Yeah, that's it.
So, I told him, a pistol or any gun, doesn't just magically go off. It requires some type of failure of the actual mechanics of the weapon system to go off without you pulling the trigger. And obviously that's a possibility with anything. But again, in 6 years, I've never even had a failure to fire out of that thing in 6 years. And I've put over 1,000 rounds through it. So I can't really get behind that concern because I don't have that problem. Now, how modern is it? Well, I guess it's technically new. I mean, it's Kimber Nighthawk Super Custom. I guess it's Kimber Nighthawk Super Custom 2 or Nighthawk 2 Super Custom, one of those two. But yeah, it's a Nighthawk. So the other thing, though, that I have had people ask me about is because I carry my weapon technically condition 1. The safety is turned off on it. The slide safety I have turned off when I'm carrying. But there, it's one of the, well, you don't have a safety on your weapon then. It's like, yeah, I do. I have my fucking trigger finger. It, again, doesn't just magically go off. And I carry in a shoulder rig. Now, the 1911 also, as we just said, has that beaver tail safety, so you can't pull the trigger without depressing the back of the grip. But again, I've had people, ask, well, why would you carry condition 1? And it's still the same. Why am I going to put yet another thing in between me and trying to use my weapon system? Now, I understand a lot of people are not comfortable with that. There are a lot of weapon systems now that are made more specifically for like concealed carry that don't have a safety. They have no external safety. They have a trigger safety and a really strong trigger. That Smith & Wesson Sigma that I had that, and I hated the trigger. It had like an 8-pound trigger pull.
Yeah, the 8-pound pull, man.
I took it to Gunsmith and had it worked on and dropped it down to like 4 pounds, which was much more manageable.
So I actually, sorry to interrupt, but Ruger, my first sidearm was a P89 Special by Ruger, and I did the same thing. When I used to live in Nevada and I had a concealed carry, and I would carry it safety off, weapon in the chamber, but the hammer down, right, which indicates you have an 8-pound pull. But every consecutive shot, once the hammer is auto-cocked back after the first shot, it becomes a 2-pound pull. So once you get that first shot off, you're just like off to the races.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and you can't do that with a 1911. You can't do double action. But the thing is, it's, to me, a lot of it is a matter of training. There's a lot of people who, because those of you that don't know, myself and my father used to do seminars on this, on carrying a weapon, whether it be concealed or openly, because you can open carry here in Michigan. And we'd have people, come that had absolutely no firearms experience whatsoever, and they would generally be the ones that would ask, like, what's the best caliber and, this and that. And the answer was always whatever it takes to get the job done, which they always, fail to understand. And it's like, there is no singular answer for that, for, what's the best gun, what's the best caliber, whatever. It's whatever you can handle safely and get the job done. For some people, maybe that's a fucking 22 Magnum. For other people, maybe that's a fucking 44 mag. It's what they're comfortable with and what they can handle and get the job done with. So, again, I would relate to them how I carry my weapon, and they could see, anybody that was at the seminar and knew anything about 1911s, you could see that my weapon was condition 1. It was ready to rock and roll. And I would explain to them, like, that's comfortable for me. I've had the training to where I feel comfortable carrying my weapon like that. Not all people do. And if you don't, then you need more training. I'm not saying that you have to carry a round in the chamber, safety off, weapon ready to go. But if you're not comfortable doing that, then you need more training. If you do not feel like you can comfortably carry a weapon in condition 1, ready to fire at a moment's notice, you need more training on that weapon system. Plain and simple. Because if you don't feel comfortable being able to carry a weapon system like that, I don't know how you could feel comfortable to draw that weapon and actually employ it.
Absolutely not.
And I just, I don't know. And, it's one of those where we told people a lot, if you can't legitimately sit there and, tell yourself, I am prepared to draw this weapon and use it to defend myself or others at a moment's notice, you don't need a pistol. You need a fucking cell phone. Because a pistol will just get you in more trouble. If you're not prepared to use it when the time comes, don't carry it, because it's just going to get you in more trouble.
I absolutely agree. And I mean, when I was taking my courses and stuff, one of the things they hammered into us is, if you're going to draw that weapon, you're going to use it.
Yeah.
Don't ever use a weapon as like a standoff or intimidation or whatever. If you're drawing it, you better use it.
Yeah,
that's the point.
Yeah, exactly. It's not an intimidation thing. It's not a deterrent. Once you draw it, that's what we told people is a weapon is a deterrent when it's in the holster. Especially for us here, like I said, you can openly carry, and I've always open carried. That's a deterrent. To be able to physically see the weapon in the holster, that's a deterrent. When you draw it, it's no longer a deterrent. It's a tool, and it's a tool to be employed. If you're not going to employ it, then don't fucking carry it. I've told people, because I've had people ask me, well, do you think, have you ever, used your weapon? No, I've never needed to use my weapon. Never drawn it once. And, well, then how do you know you're ready? I just do. I don't know, how to relate it to you. I've never had to. I just know that I could, should I need to. I've been put in enough high-stress situations to know that I'm capable of putting myself into the mindset of doing that. But at the same time, I've been put in enough high-stress situations where I'm not going to draw it and not use it and escalate a situation that doesn't need to be escalated. And that's something that I'm not sure a lot of people understand is when you're carrying a weapon, especially on like a daily basis, you very quickly realize that your senses have all been basically cranked up to 12. And you notice things a lot more. You notice where people are in relation to you a lot more. And you tend to try to remove yourself from high-stress situations. Not so much as a concern of, I don't want to get into a fight or something like that. It's, I don't want this situation to be further escalated by what I have on my person. Because if there is, say people get into a fucking argument at a gas station, and I come in and try and break it up, and somebody sees a pistol, that can potentially escalate that situation. But at the same time, should that same argument escalate on its own and one of those guys draws a pistol, now I'm able to use my tool to de-escalate that situation and potentially disarm or, remove that threat. So it's one of those. And again, I've talked to a lot of people about carrying weapons, and quite often, anybody that is unsure in the slightest. I've told them, don't carry, flat out. You need more training. And it bothers me here in Michigan how easily you can get a concealed carry permit. It annoys me that it consists of like a 4-hour class, and there you go, you've got a CPL, and you have to hit a fucking paper plate at like 50 feet or some shit. It's like, dude, you could throw the fucking pistol and hit the goddamn paper plate, let alone actually shooting at it. But I'm one of those weird people when it comes to like gun control and all of that shit, where I don't think, not a fan of like shit being banned or this or that, but I am a fan of restrictions being a little bit tighter on some things, especially when it comes to carrying a pistol. There's a lot of people that probably right now that are carrying a fucking pistol that have absolutely no fucking business carrying one because they're some happy fucking half-tard that went through a course with some supposed instructor who's, qualified by the fucking NRA of all fucking people, and, was misinformed left and fucking right because this NRA fucking instructor was, he got his big fucking popularity as an instructor because he's a former police officer, and he was a police officer like 25 fucking years ago, never fired his weapon in fucking service, never been in a fucking situation where he needed to, this and that, and he's out there telling people how to carry a gun every day. It's like, dude.
Right. And also, I mean, just to add on to that, in my opinion, the people that lack the competency, to be able to carry a weapon, most likely probably shouldn't even own one in the first place.
Yeah, definitely. And it's, I don't know. Like I said, I'm not a fan of how easy it is to get a permit here. It's insane to me that we can let a civilian here go through what boils down to a total of like 6 hours worth of training and carry a pistol on them. And you go into the fucking military and you spend more than 6 hours at the fucking range in basic. And granted, it's a fucking machine gun, but still.
That's something what I don't get, because for you guys it's so easy, and to get a gun permit only here takes up 3 months.
Yeah.
And if you do, you have to spend 30 hours on the range before they even tell you if you can own a firearm or not.
Oh, dude, people here would lose their fucking minds if you had to go through all those hoops.
The UK is pretty much a no. I mean, you need something called a defense, which is a valid reason as to why you need what you're asking for, and then you're limited. Obviously, you're fully limited to caliber. Like, it's tiny. It's anything that can hunt deer. And the only fucking chance you're gonna get hold of one is if you live in a rural area with a certain population density, you have a large amount of lands, and you validly say, we have deer and we want to hunt. That's like the only fucking way. We have gun clubs and shit, and you can go, if I go down to base, if I want to, I can fire 5.56 and I can fire 2.2. But like, apart from that, if you're a civilian, it's not gonna happen.
Yeah, it is weird to me. Not just how easy it is to get your hands on a weapon, but how easy it is to be able to carry a weapon legally here in Michigan. Now, granted, different states have different laws and requirements and stuff like that. I'm just talking about Michigan specifically.
Right. Well, in Nevada, it's even more lax. Just
Nevada is fucking
open carry on your 18th birthday. You can go buy a AR-15 and just sling that shit around your back.
Oh yeah, you can do the same thing here.
Good. But to get a concealed carry in Nevada, it's quite an arduous process.
Yeah, you can do the same thing here in that you can open carry long guns at 18 because long guns are not registered. Here you cannot purchase a pistol from an FFA, anyone holding an FFL, Federal Firearms License, basically a dealer. You can't purchase a pistol until you're 21 unless it's from a private seller. So like, right, you can buy a pistol from your uncle, when you're 18. Otherwise, it's a long gun. But yeah, long gun here, you can openly carry. And there are fucking retards here that carry fucking an AR-15 or an AK-47 on their back. And I laugh at each and every one of them. I mean, my fucking cousin is one of them. And I've told him multiple times, you're a fucking idiot. makes no goddamn sense.
Pretty fucking stupid in my opinion.
And, you know, it's, oh, well, we're fucking, it's always one of two bullshit reasonings. It's either,
Second Amendment.
yeah, it's either A, we're fucking exercising our Second Amendment and, you know, we want to make people aware that this is legal and this and that. And it's like, okay, all you're doing, successfully doing, is scaring the shit out of people. And that is not what we're trying to fucking do. It's like, I've been part of the fucking movement. Been doing it for fucking years. It's the whole goddamn reason that we do these courses and shit. You guys are making it fucking worse. Or
Didn't two guys fucking walk into a police station with, I think, AR-15s, saying they were exercising their right to open carry, and they just got fucking arrested.
oh, it wouldn't surprise me at
I'm
all.
surprised they didn't get murdered. I'm surprised they didn't get fucking gunned down in a hail of bullets.
Well, the reason they didn't is because now cops are so fucking scared to use any type of force, even non-lethal force. They're fucking terrified to do it because every time they do, they're under such a goddamn microscope.
Twitter and
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And you only get the tiniest little snippet of what the actual situation is. You don't get the entire fucking, you know, situation leading up to what just happened to that police officer using the force. Like the one video I watched of this lady's filming this shit of her boyfriend getting shot in the fucking passenger seat. And you guys have probably seen this video because it was all over the place. And this cop is screaming at him to get his hands up, like away from the sides of the seat, saying, "Put your hands up, put your hands up, please put your hands up." And the guy wouldn't do it, would not raise his hands, would not raise his hands, would not raise his hands. And then the officer had to have seen his shoulder move, and he dumped like 2 or 3 rounds into his chest. And the cop is like screaming and crying all at once, like, "Why did you make me do this? Why did you make me do it? Why did you make me shoot?" And the chick is still sitting there filming it. Like, her fucking boyfriend is sitting there bleeding out, and she's sitting there filming it. And people went fucking apeshit. And it's like, dude, are you kidding me? That cop is like pleading with him, "Please raise your hands. Please don't make me do this." And then afterwards, the guy was immediately like fucking heartbroken that he had to shoot this dude because he was a fucking clinical retard and not wanting to comply with the officer.
you
It's
talking
like,
about the guy
dude.
that basically like sparked the whole Black Lives Matters thing?
No, this was a white guy.
This was after, right? Yeah, he was just in the car with his girlfriend.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was absolutely fucking ridiculous. But anyways, the second reason that's always given with these guys carrying long guns is, well, I need it for I can use it to defend myself because now the criminals have, you know, machine guns and this and that.
If I, bro,
It's the most retarded thing I've heard.
Exactly.
Who the
It's
fuck, who
my-
the fuck have you upset in your life
I-
where you think people are gonna come into your house
Okay,
with a fucking machine
I've-
gun to
the
kill you?
best situation of this. Okay, me and my old man did this seminar a few years back, and there was a guy there that had an AR on his back, you know, slung on his back, like cross style, not up and down, cross style. And my dad said, "Okay," asked the guy to go ahead and stand up. He stands up, and my dad walks up behind him, grabs a hold of the fucking AR, and starts swinging this dude around like he's a fucking ragdoll. He's like, "Okay, I'm a potential attacker. Go ahead and defend yourself, because here I am, a 60-year-old, 160-pound man, and I'm flinging you around like you're my bitch." There was nothing he could do. It's like, okay, so what good does it do on your back? All right, then go ahead and carry it on your front. All right, go ahead and employ that weapon system. That 5.56 millimeter with 30 rounds that's designed to pierce body armor. You want to know the number one fucking rule when actually using your weapon? Those bullets don't come back, motherfucker. You're responsible for each and every one of those. So you engage somebody. You hit him. Great. That bullet just went through him and into the fucking coffee shop behind him and smoked a 6-year-old kid.
Yep.
That's on you. Not
it's
the
same
piece
thing
of
with
shit.
handguns.
Yeah, it's on you.
Like-
Not
like
the
in
piece of shit
self-defense.
that started opening fire in the middle of the fucking park. Yeah, he hit some innocent civilians. So did you, because you decided to use a round that's designed to pierce fucking body armor, you idiot.
Yeah. This shit's designed for, you know, out in the fucking sandpit, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're in an like when you're in fucking city, it's so there's just so much chance down to it that you
Yeah.
like said even like ricochet and shit like that. I just think it's fucking kind of crazy.
What do cops carry? Like 9 mils,
9
40
and
cals?
40. Even 40, I'm not a huge fan of. I know quite a few guys that are law enforcement that have never been a big fan of 40 because 40's got a good impact, but it's still got so much muzzle velocity that you have to worry about over penetration. So it's still a big concern. Not quite as big a concern as a 9 mil, but you still have that concern of over penetration. Which is why a lot of guys, as far as a service weapon, still like a 45. Yeah, it's not going to penetrate body armor. It'll knock them on their fucking ass.
Yeah.
But you don't have that concern of over penetration. You can hit a person and it's not going to fly another fucking 200 feet and hit somebody behind them.
The muzzle velocity is such that as soon as it hits flesh, it just basically stops, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, you look at like the core bonds that I carry in my 45. The muzzle velocity on them is 750 feet per second. All right, just over fucking supersonic. As to where muzzle velocity on like 9 mil, like paper punchers, not even hot rounds, is shit. It's like 1,300 or 1,400 feet per second. I mean, it's damn hot rounds, like real hot hollow point rounds, are like double the muzzle velocity of a 45. So I mean, you're talking a lot more penetration out of something like that. So and that's where like that's why I can't stand. Obviously, movies get it wrong all the time, but when you see like somebody sitting in a car and the car gets all fucking shot up and they're perfectly fine because the steel stopped it. Yeah, no, you can take a fucking 9mm round and put it right through a fucking car like it's not even
exactly.
there. Let alone,
like a soda can.
Yeah, let alone fucking
it's
rifle
like
rounds like an AK or a fucking M4.
It's like a half inch of fucking thin metal with a plastic door inside of it. Like,
Look, it's
there's
nowhere
nothing-
even near a half inch. It's maybe an eighth
yeah,
of an inch of
quarter
steel.
inch, or 7 inch, yeah.
Two in a can.
Yeah. I don't know if 45 is the most reliable caliber. I mean, it very well may be. I don't know. I think 9 is probably just
Yeah,
as reliable.
9. Like, aren't the Glocks
Um,
insanely
Oh
like,
yeah,
reliable?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Like,
great.
yeah.
I personally, I absolutely love the reliability and the performance of Glock. I just hate the feeling of them, and the, I guess somewhat the aesthetics. They remind me of a High Point because they're so big and blocky, but I don't like the feel of them. They're a little too big for me.
I got this weird thing with Glocks, and it's just this weird personal thing where if I can't see the hammer, I'm not okay with it. I don't know what it is. It's just me.
I can understand that.
I think a big thing that turns a lot of people off, this at least for the 17, doesn't have a proper safety. I mean, it has a 2-stage trigger, I guess. You have like the sensor bit, the trigger you have to press first before you can actually.
Yeah, it's a trigger safety.
Yeah, but it doesn't have as far as I know, at least the 17s, which is what the British police use, as well as the army, finally, it's getting passed down the ranks and they are getting distributed right now.
I actually just seen a story on Yahoo that apparently the SEALs are switching to Glock from the SIG P226, which is surprising. I mean, they've been using that 226 for like 30 fucking years. And we all know that the Army just switched over to that SIG P320 or what the fuck ever, which now they're having those problems where if you drop it, it goes off, which is great. Glock sitting back there fucking salivating, like, hey, we got a gun for you right here, ready to go.
Yeah.
I've seen a couple of videos on the drop thing, and I thought it was like, it was like a 1 in 10. I was like, no, fuck, that's like really, real fucking easy to do.
Yeah. But I mean, I personally, I've always been a fan of the 1911. Not any 45, but I love the 1911. I also love, my father has a Taurus 24/7. It's one of the original 24/7. They're on like Gen 2 or 3 now. But I absolutely love that pistol. It is probably the most comfortable pistol I've ever held. And it's a 45 double stack, 12+1. Or maybe it's 14+1. I think it's 12+1. But goddamn, is it a comfortable pistol, and it shoots so fucking well. And it's a 45 with 13 fucking rounds. which you like my 1911, even with the extended Wilson Combat Mag, is only 11 rounds, 10 in the mag, 1 in the pipe. But I don't know. I've always had a thing for 45s. I'm not really a big fan of 9 mils. And again, maybe that's purely from the defensive standpoint of actually, potentially needing to use one, and the issue of over penetration with a 9, and in a civilian situation, there's almost never you're going to be going up against someone wearing fucking body armor and rifle plates. So I don't really need that penetration value. I want the knockdown value of a 45. But yeah, I've always had a thing for a 1911. Plus, it's an iconic image. I mean, anybody, and I've talked about this with my brother before, anybody that sees that 45, whether it's in a holster or not, they know what it is. They know that's a big fucking round coming out of the end of that thing.
Yeah. It's American as apple pie, the 1911.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And yes, Smith, I own multiple. 2 1911s, shotguns, a couple of carbines, 357 wheel gun, and some other stuff. Yeah, so I own a few weapons. Nothing crazy. Like, I never got into the like getting M4s or AR-15s or whatever, AKs, stuff like that. Like, I've never been a fan of, I'm gonna go out and drop $3,000 on a fucking rifle that I'm gonna use once every couple of years at the range. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. I can't justify the price point of it. If I was doing like security shit and doing like security contracting, even though I can tell you now those guys don't get to carry their own weapons, maybe. But no, it doesn't make any sense for me to have a weapon like that. I don't have a use for it. And I can't remember. Loster might have been. Was it you I was talking about those militia guys? Was I talking about that with you, or was it somebody else? Do you remember?
Might have been me. You want to?
Yeah, I can't remember who exactly it was. Because my cousin's in one of the militias here in Michigan, and I mean, half of them are just like fucking retarded. I mean,
Okay, yeah. If I may, Brewer, I know that I was, as usual, I was late.
No,
but,
please go ahead.
I didn't know that this was going to be a political thingy, but while we're on since you said that, and you mentioned it a little while ago, like the people that use the same defense all the time, like the same 2 fucking excuses to like walk around and carry fucking M4s and shit, or AR-15s on their back.
Yeah.
I live in New York State, and New York State is, I think, the 5th strictest.
Wow, is
state.
it 5th? I thought it would be higher than that.
I think it's 5th. It's 5th. It's underneath. I think Connecticut's higher, and a couple other ones are a little bit higher.
Obviously, California.
Right.
Yeah, I think California's number 1 actually.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me.
In any case, we do have our share of gun violence, but it's really restricted to like New York City for the most part. I mean, there are shootings elsewhere. It's a big state, and with the law of numbers, I mean, in probability, you're gonna have shootings elsewhere. But most of the gun violence is restricted to the city.
Yeah, and even in the city, I live in New York City, and even then, it's still restricted. Even then, to like certain sectors or townships within the city.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at like gang violence, like
Yeah.
things like these aren't legally
It's the
owned.
same thing as
weapons.
Chicago. I mean, the gun
Yeah.
violence there, those obviously are not fucking legally owned weapon systems. We all know how
Right, and-
insane
Yeah,
Chicago is.
Chicago, LA, Detroit, yeah. But what my point was going to be that there seems to like I'm kind of an advocate for like some kind of reform here.
Mhm.
For like I agree with you. I think it should be harder to get guns. It should be harder to buy them. I think there should be a little bit more like higher standards.
Mhm.
Because like McCoy said, the fact that you can literally just on your 18th birthday just go buy a gun, and like I don't think like some angsty 18-year-old like that's what that kid in fucking Florida did. Like that's kind of the big deterrent factor for me, is that like these shootings that are happening now are happening on a weekly basis, and I'm not exaggerating.
Yeah.
Every week someone is shooting up a fucking school or
Well,
something.
that's completely separate though from, because those oftentimes are using their parents' weapons, which
That's
is
true. Yes.
completely separate. As far as like being able to purchase a weapon and shit like that, the bigger, not necessarily issue, but as you know, as you were saying, the majority of that gun violence is from weapons that are not legally purchased in the first place. They're, you know, gotten
Yeah.
off the street and this and that.
Right.
More so, it's like, why in the fuck are these crimes not being hit harder? You know, why can a guy be caught with a illegal pistol, as in, you know, not legally purchased, not legally registered in his name, caught with that and a bunch of fucking drugs, and he's sentenced to 5 years and does 2 years and gets off on probation? It's like, no, dude, that should be a full-on fucking federal charge. Like,
You're talking about like prison overpopulation, so they reduce sentences to reduce the overpopulation.
but you're,
that's a huge
yeah,
thing,
that's
like,
a whole different thing. You're also talking about, you know, overpopulation
so now
because
we hit the point where it's too many fastest to get into, huh?
yeah, exactly.
yeah,
Well,
like
I mean, now you're talking about like, you know, in that case, if you're someone
the
with a
war on
bunch
drugs
of drugs and guns,
Oh, yeah.
you probably have some sort of funding for an attorney who's tight with the DA to copy some sort of
Oh,
fucking
yeah,
plea
that-
deal.
yeah.
You know, so now we're getting like crazy semantics of the legal system.
but the big thing for me is like I know, like, you know, dudes that have like, I think what you were about to say, Brewer, is dudes that have like fucking arsenals, and it's like it's like a fucking Fallout vault under their fucking backyard,
Eh.
and it's like, what do you think? Like, in my head, I'm thinking, oh, we gotta fucking protect ourselves in case what? In case the fucking United States Army is walking down your street one day. Do you really think that the United States Army or the National Guard or any other armed forces of this country are gonna be like, oh shit, Jim Bob's got a fucking AR-15. Why don't we just not? We should better keep our Bradleys away from him because he's got a fucking AR-15.
Let's not bring
And-
the tank.
Fucking kid
Yeah.
Mark 19. He's
And
gone.
very quickly, I agree wholeheartedly with what Patty just said in chat. To an extent, just get rid of misdemeanor marijuana charges. Felony marijuana charges, where you're talking about,
Right.
you know, where they're bringing in pounds and pounds. There,
intense
it's a little
supply.
bit different because the vast majority of the time they're wrapped up in other drugs and shit like that as well. So it depends on what really they're caught with. But yeah, like misdemeanor, you know, or even, oh, you've got an ounce on you, whatever.
Have
Like,
you-
just
have you- have you
fucking
seen those,
decriminalize it.
Have you seen those clips on like because I used to watch Cops a lot, and you'd see like fucking like
So
deep.
he knows everything.
No. Just hear me out, because it goes to what Brewer was saying. Is that like you got drug enforcement police, like, you know, tactical teams with cops and fucking body armor and shit that are like swarming like people like me, like dudes
Oh, yeah.
like me that go and like buy
Dude,
an
I've
ounce of
seen
weed
it.
for the weekend.
There's a task force that has been running in this town since I was young, called FANG, Flint Area Narcotics Group.
Yeah.
Now they do serious drugs too. Obviously, we have like heroin and all kinds of crazy shit here. But they'll raid motherfuckers like pot dealers that have, you know, a few ounces in their house, and they'll like rip down the front door with a fucking APC and go busting in there. I mean, these guys are full TAC unit, and they'll go in for somebody that's got a few ounces. And it's like, okay, one, how much fucking money just got wasted by deploying this TAC unit to do this
Big
raid?
waste of
How
fucking
much?
resources.
Yeah, how much money is wasted for the fucking court and all this and that for this dude to get like fucking 2 years probation? Like,
But
what
that
the
was a
fuck
sick
was the
publicity
point?
Video, right?
What's that?
I said, but that was a sick publicity video, right?
Oh yeah, it fucking looks
Yeah,
sweet
fuck
on the
the other one,
GoPros, dude.
Yeah.
So
Fucking
when I
Call of
was
Duty
in
with
Cal-
military
when I-
grade weapons.
Yeah.
So when I lived in California, I was in college. I got in trouble for having like an ounce or two weed on me, and so they decided to arrest me. And the cop brought my friend and I into the station, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I got these two guys." And like, "What'd you get them for?" He's like, "Oh, they had like an ounce of weed." And the rest of the cops just started laughing.
Like, dude, you do
Really?
realize this
Are
is
you-
California,
Yeah,
right?
like, are you serious right now?
Get out here and stop wasting our fucking time. And very quickly, so you're not misinformed, Storm. the 1911 hasn't been used by U.S. forces, traditional U.S. forces, since the fucking 80s when we switched over to the M9. So, yeah, some soft guys will still use 1911s. Very, very fucking rarely. Yeah, they'll still use 45s, but they won't use 1911s. But traditional line forces have not used a 1911 or a 45 caliber since the early 80s. I think it was like 82 or 83 that when that switched over. But yeah, there are soft units that will use 45s, but not traditional line units. So, you know, there's, yes, 45 is still used by some military elements, but not normal line infantry or anything like that. So to go back to what you were saying though, Luster, about like the guys with like the crazy bunkers and shit like that.
The Fallout 5 families.
Yeah.
Like,
Family
Yes,
members.
those guys.
My family members.
Those guys absolutely, like, I've got a whole different thing on them. But there are people that legit just collect a lot of firearms because they do genuinely love them and they see themselves as kind of a, I guess kind of like
enthusiast,
well, not just an enthusiast,
a
but kind of,
historian.
yeah, exactly, a historian. Like they want to carry on those firearms, and you know, when they're dead and gone, they want, you know, their family to keep those firearms and keep that tradition going. You know, so 100 years down the line, you can still go look at a fucking 1912 trench gun
Yeah.
or something. You know,
Like Hickok 45s, I think.
yeah, exactly. He's a perfect
He was a
example.
professional shooter.
Yeah.
But now he's like, he just collects them. And,
Yeah, and you know damn well that guy's probably got hundreds of weapons within his house. Do
Yeah.
I think he's a fucking lunatic? Absolutely not. He is a genuine enthusiast who just loves the life and loves weapons and, you know, wants to share that and educate people. That's a big part about what he does now, especially, is educating people and, you know, reviewing weapons and letting people know what he thinks as a professional.
Yeah, and he's always very respectful. He always wears ear protection. He's always very safe. You know,
Yeah.
like he shows you how to load it. He shows you how to how to respect the weapon.
Yeah, and I love when he points out, like, when he makes a mistake, like, you know, when he almost forgets to put his ear pro in, and he's like, oh, I almost, you know, forgot to put my earplugs in or whatever. Like, I like that he, you know, he does, like you said, he shows safety and, you know, calls himself out on it when he makes a mistake. Now, in terms of, like, those style of guys that, you know, the Fallout guys, and more often than not, a lot of those guys are involved in, like, the militias and stuff. And Michigan's pretty famous for its militias, and, you know, we have a bunch of fucking crazy
Bunch of
rednecks
Dale
that
Gribbles.
went a little far north. And I've met a lot of them. I've talked to a lot of them. Some of them are very cool. They're very normal fucking guys who, you know, it's their fishing weekend. You know, instead of going out on the boat fishing, they're hanging out with their fucking militia buddies. Whatever. You know, I don't really give a shit. It's those guys that have like fucking, and this is somebody that I've met before that's got a fucking Connex box dug into the side of a hill up in the fucking mountains up north and has weapons and supplies and survival gear and shit stuffed away in there and legit believe that one day they are going to need to use that. Now, these are the same people that like probably grew up a lot like me watching Red Dawn like it was fucking training material because the Ruskies are gonna fucking invade. I'm telling
Either
you.
that or fucking Terminator.
One of these
bunch of-
days,
bunch of Burt Gummers.
the Ruskies are gonna fucking invade. But the thing is, and like I've seen one of these trainings and shit, and it's like, dude.
It's a camp out for the weekend, really.
Well, it is, but then they try and do. They try and do like
military
legit,
tactics and shit.
yeah. They try to do legit training, but 95% of these dudes are like 40 years old, about 80 pounds overweight, and couldn't actually fight their way out of a wet paper bag. And it's like, look,
I'm glad you guys are here to defend us. Thank God.
yeah, exactly.
Like 6 Coors Lights deep already. You know?
Yeah, and it's
our
like, look,
finest militia.
you know, I'm no fucking heavyweight boxer or anything myself, but I can at least fucking run my happy ass out of a shit situation if I need to. You couldn't run your happy ass from your bedroom to your toilet if your ass was about to explode. So I don't exactly trust our national freedom in your hands. Like, I've seen the U.S. military bring its full might to bear. Not even actually its full might, but I've seen the U.S. military bring its might to bear on a fucking common enemy. You don't stand a fucking chance, homeboy.
Yeah. Like that asshole with the dish cam you were talking about.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you know, it.
Oh, we got an M2. We got an M2 up in our mountain. Oh,
Yeah.
do you?
Like, obviously,
Okay.
guerrilla tactics work when you, have been fighting in conflict for a couple of fucking centuries like the Vietnamese or the Afghanis have been doing.
Yep.
So you're raised in a fucking war culture. You're trained from the time you can hold a fucking weapon to fight. And you've learned these tactics through centuries of trial and error and centuries of fucking Ahmed getting blown the fuck up. Like, you've got the experience, the shared experience.
Right. Like they don't have summer camp. They have like jihad camp.
Fucking Jimmy Bibbob don't have that fucking experience. Like, you think...
Worked at Walmart for 25
Yeah,
years.
exactly. Like, you think watching some fucking, movies of Arnold Schwarzenegger or some shit have trained you to fucking go fight up in the hills like you're gonna be your own goddamn Rambo. And it's like, dude, these motherfuckers will call in a 2,000-pound fucking bomb on a single dude with a fucking machine gun that's like a click and a half away and doesn't really pose that big of a threat. The fuck do you think they'll do to your dumbass? Like, it's absolutely insane to me that these guys think that they are going to protect us from a tyrannical government. And that's always their thing is, it's going to be a tyrannical government. Never mind, this is, in case we're going to get invaded. Because simple fact that we haven't been at risk of being fucking invaded since the 50s. Flat out. We haven't. The second a fucking A-bomb went off, the risk of us getting invaded dropped drastically. So, and then the end of the Cold War, it's like, okay, well, that's it. The Russian fucking, the Iron Curtain has fallen. We are the biggest superpower. Nobody is going to invade us.
Plus, we got submarines in both oceans that can detect
exactly.
kilometers. Like no one's no.
Yeah, so
that's why
with
Cuba was
satellites
such
in
a big
space,
deal.
I think that's seeing things is not a problem anymore.
Yeah.
We got Canada to take the hit for us.
Yeah.
People realize how like fucking dangerous Cuba was because it was like 4 minutes missile ride from Cuba to Florida. Like that was why the US was so fucking pissed off, and I get that. But as soon as that was dealt with and over, there's like, where else are they gonna come from? There's a lot of fucking ocean in between you and the US.
Yeah, but even then, there wasn't a concern of invasion from Cuba. It was a concern of missiles hitting us from Cuba. Right. It was never a concern of boots being on the ground on the mainland. Right. There's never really been that concern. So it's like, okay, you guys no longer can use that as a fucking, as a reasoning, like, we're preparing for a potential invasion from the Ruskies and I want to be able to scream Wolverines. It's just not going to happen.
What they say is what they lean, and I've heard this from people who are very, very strong advocates for the Second Amendment. It's like these people that are like super, like they're so far on the right you can't even fucking see them. And like the thing is like, okay, if they just even like proposing like restrictions.
Oh yeah.
Even like proposing restrictions is like, okay, you're taking away our rights. That's the first step towards like fascism. That's the first step towards
I know. They immediately go to, Hitler did the same thing. Dude, fucking putting a goddamn restriction on buying a fucking, assault rifle and saying that, you must pass this mental fucking test is a long way from killing a couple million people and invading half of Europe. Like, there's a big difference there, dude.
Just also love painting.
Yeah.
Guys,
like, that's a big fucking jump, man.
I'm so fucking worried because they know they're not going to pass the fucking test when they put it in.
Exactly. Because they're going to go, fucking, you're retarded. No.
You need basic maths for this. Oh, shit. No.
I mean, like, I guess for me, like, obviously this is a cliche argument, but when you put the Second Amendment in context of when it was written, it took, 2 or 3 minutes to load one fucking round.
Yeah. But that's, and Aaron was talking about, those guys needing to go to the military and stuff like that. And, Mike is right. Some of them were in the military, but vast majority of these guys that were in the military are, again, like I said, 40, 50 years old, 80 pounds overweight, and they were in the military during like Grenada. Like, they don't understand how modern military combat works. And even though they were in the military during Grenada, every single one of them are a Vietnam vet. And it's like, dude, you do realize to be a Vietnam veteran, you'd have to be like 70 years old at this point, right? Like,
He enlisted at 11.
yeah, exactly. Like, my uncle was a fucking Vietnam vet. He's dead in the fucking ground. Like, he's not out here running around trying his best to not trip over his gut doing fire and maneuver trainings. Like, no, the fuck you're not. All right. But yeah, so those guys, it's a special breed of stupid the vast majority of the time, because like you know, you watch them try and do their trainings and this and that, and they're trying to do, because they read FM 061 fucking whatever fucking field manual they read on, you know, maneuver warfare
2007 off the
tactics.
internet.
Yeah, exactly. And they're trying to do these maneuvers, and it's like, dude, you guys do realize that like the shit in these failed manuals are designed for line infantry units consisting of, you know, like minimum 40 guys. There's 6 of you. Like, these tactics
They're gonna
work.
see us go their way.
Yeah,
into the
like
terrorists.
these tactics work for a fucking line infantry unit in head-on modern militarized combat. Like, you need to go back and read like tactics from the Vietnamese, like Viet Cong tactics. Okay,
Give him a shot.
That's-
Fucking start digging.
yeah,
Wow.
like that's
you'll
the
learn,
shit.
You'll learn a thing or two.
Yeah, like that's the shit that you need to learn and train on, like guerrilla tactics, because the shit that you guys learned, you know, going through fucking boot back in '83 ain't gonna fucking work in the kind of situation that you would be in. You know, you sure as fuck are not gonna protect us from a tyrannical government by creating a skirmish line up against a fucking, you know, platoon of U.S. Army troops. You're gonna end up as a splatter on a fucking log somewhere.
And even then, the key of guerrilla tactics is hit and run. And if you're 80 pounds overweight, it's going to be pretty hard to execute.
You're not gonna run.
After that.
Yeah,
Hit and jog with a slight quickness.
yeah,
Hit and wheeze. Hit and
Hit
wheeze.
and be out of breath.
yeah. Hit and wheeze. That's pretty much it. But goddamn, are they proud of their fucking $5,000 AR? That
Didn't
you know,
they? I remember something from Discovery like 6 years ago. Doomsday Preppers.
mhm.
Oh yeah, no, it's still on that.
Yeah.
Well,
There's
it wasn't.
tons
It
of
was
shows
still
like
until
that.
recently.
Yeah.
I think it ended like 3 years ago, but that shit.
Oh, I
always
don't know.
made me laugh.
I love that show.
Yeah.
Dear
Yep.
God.
It was always
Oh.
in like the middle of fucking nowhere as well.
They
you never-
bought
you never
all
got people in,
farms
like,
and-
Yeah, you never got like people in like, you know, normal places. I guess like they were all in the middle.
Well, that's
of
because they're
fucking
not
nowhere.
normal fucking people, Myers.
Yeah.
Brewer,
Living next
You know
to
what
a like a, what was it, like the Amish population, like living next door to them.
I think it, you know what I think it was, Brewer? I think people built a bunch of bomb shelters in the 50s and 60s because of the Russians, and then no one told them that the war's over.
Yeah.
So they raised
It was
Break
blast from the past.
yeah,
Yeah, fucking great.
a bunch of Brendan Frasers walking out.
Right, exactly.
It's like fucking hazmat suit.
Yeah. No, I don't know, man. It's weird that some people get kind of drawn into that. And like I said, my cousin's one of them. Somewhat. You know, he's a fairly normal fucking guy. Like, he's not a complete psycho that thinks our government is like fucking, you know, like conspiring against us and this and
Like
that.
they did 9/11.
Yeah, exactly. Like, he's not fucking way off the deep end or anything like that. But he does say and do some shit where I'm like, motherfucker, are you sure we're related? And, you know, like, he does the militia stuff. And like I said, I can understand, you know, some guys doing it as a hobby and like, oh, it's just, you know, an excuse to get away from the fucking wife for the weekend and come out in here and hang out with the guys. And yeah, you know, we get to shoot some guns and do some fire maneuver drills and stuff like that. Like, I can see it as a hobby, but I can never understand the mindset of like taking it seriously. Like, yeah, we're the militia and we're going to protect the state. And it's like, you
Yeah.
can't
Sure.
you
For
can't
what?
protect yourself, let alone the entirety of the fucking state. Like,
I don't know what these imaginary PMCs are that these people are like envisioning. Like they just think it's a fucking Michael Bay movie for them.
yeah, that's
Like-
pretty much exactly it. I mean, I'm legit.
Like-
They have seen too many fucking movies.
Like they saw the Alamo and like, oh, I'm gonna be Billy Bob Thornton. Like I
Yeah.
got news for you. He fucking died.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You guys know what happened at the Alamo, right? And Waco, for that matter.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't know. So, and the weird thing is, you know, like you take the guys that are legit operators, you know, guys that have since gotten out, but have done real fucking contracts and, you know, legit have that training and that experience that's needed. They don't do that shit. Like I mean, I'm sure there's some out there, but I personally have never, and I met a lot of guys that did contracts through KBR and other companies, you know, being just there and around the life and stuff. You meet a lot of guys that did all kinds of fucking jobs. And one of my very, very, very good friends still does security contracts. He's in South America right now. And they don't do that shit. Like they're not fucking creating militias out there, and these are the most well-trained fucking guys on the planet. They don't do that shit. Like they don't see any need to create a fucking militia. They'll create a business to train people and teach them how to operate a weapon system, different tactics and shit like that. There's a lot of guys that have been incredibly successful doing that. But you don't see these guys out like creating fucking militias and, you know, saying that we're gonna fucking protect you all should the government decide to turn on us for whatever fucking reason, which is another answer I can never get. Like, okay, why is the tyrannical government gonna come after you?
And yeah, and what makes you think that like you or I or anybody else that like if you're in the armed forces is gonna walk down fucking like Third Avenue in Manhattan to start kicking doors in and
Yeah.
gunning people down? Like what the fuck? No. Or they're gonna start like, okay, yeah, you're like you have a relative in the armed forces. He's gonna walk down the streets of Flint, Michigan, and start kicking doors in.
Right.
Hey, Mr.
Well, no,
Johnson.
they wouldn't come here because they're not worried about the militia. They're worried about the
Yeah.
gangs.
The gangs will be a big.
Yeah.
They'll protect you.
Then they will be like, yeah, don't take the fucking Abrams down there. That motherfucker
They'll
will get
just
blown
skip
up.
Flint.
Yeah.
No, we can't drink the water. Fuck it. Just leave. We don't.
Like, no, we can't take any fucking vehicles in there. They'll end up getting stolen. Last week we had a cougar disappear, and yeah, fucking woke up the
actual
next
cougar.
morning. There was no tires on the fucking truck, and
Saw some fucking bricks.
Yeah.
2 tons on cinder blocks.
yeah,
Leaving an Abrams on bricks.
like I don't even know how they jack the fucking thing up. We can't even jack the goddamn things up. We have to lift it with a crane. I don't know. We came back and it's got fucking plastic wheels from goddamn Power Wheels on there. I don't get it.
Imagine they just took a military vehicle and like aftermarketed it, but like fucking nitrous and shit.
I'm just saying,
Strip-
the motherfuckers,
strip, like,
the
hood down.
motherfuckers were able to steal a Gatling gun from the armory. So there's no ends to their capability. Like if you've ever seen that fucking XXX State of the Union, where fucking Ice Cube is like, yeah, we just fucking Grand Theft Auto the tank or whatever, he probably got that idea from here. Just saying, if anybody was gonna do it, it'd be here.
I don't know what it was, but that last comment made me envision like a fucking Barbie Jeep with a dishcom on the back.
No, that's currently happening in Afghanistan and Syria. And yeah, Anabra's right. I mean, vets, you know, they make fucking security companies, you know, and they do contract work, whether you know, it's for us or somebody else or whatever, you know, they go where the fucking money is. They don't start a fucking militia and go hang out with 20 fucking retards that watch too many movies. So, and believe me, that's, as many of you know, that is where the fucking money is. Like you would shit yourselves to find out how much money there is in security contracting. Like guys think that, you know, doing 120 a year for construction is fucking nuts. Yeah. You're talking some fucking security contracts are pushing close to 500 a year, depending on where you're at. And obviously what the contract is and length and shit like that. But it's insane fucking money for security contracts. I mean, I couldn't even imagine how much money was being spent in Iraq alone for contracts. And not just security contracts, but everything. You know, like I've said before, at one point in time, there was up to 20,000 contractors in country. At one time, 20,000 contractors. The minimum contract that we had was 80 grand. 80 grand a year, minimum contract. So when you're talking 20,000 fucking guys at minimum 80 grand, and most guys are north of 100, fucking Christ, dude. That is insane amounts of money.
That's interesting, but how close would these guys be working with the actual military if they were, well, they would be out there?
As in security?
Yeah.
You're working right alongside them most of the time.
Right, so if shit did go wrong, the military would obviously be there to...
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Oh, yeah, they don't fuck around. Well, it depends on where you're at, though. If you're somewhere with a military presence, yes, absolutely. And it also depends on who you're contracting for, how, you know, semi on off the books it is, you know, how fucking shady everything is. But vast majority of the time, yes, if there's a military presence and a contractor gets in trouble, absolutely the military is going to show up because that's a U.S. Citizen.
Civilian, yeah.
Right.
So they're not going to have that shit on their hands. That's why, you know, when we came in, what was it, 2006? Or 2005, when those 2 truck drivers were killed, the guys that got beheaded and shit, the civilian contractors, they worked for KBR. And, you know, so when we came in, that was a huge deal. Like, contractor safety was absolute top of the line, like even above U.S. troops. It was protect the contractors because every contractor had a price on their head. You know, because if you get a hold of a U.S. soldier, that's great. You know, that's good publicity for them to fucking post all over Al Jazeera. But you can get a hold of a civilian, that's even bigger. Because then you've got the possibility of the family wanting to pay money and this and that, and then being able to say, you know, look, we can get your civilians and stuff like that. So it was a huge, huge deal that at all times, you know, you had protection. Even as a security contractor, doing, you know, simple PSD of dignitaries and stuff like that, you know, if they go in with a fucking security detail of, say, 8 to 12 guys, at all times, pretty much, they had a QRF on call. Like, if we get in shit, they make a phone call and a fucking, you know, 2 squads of Army Rangers or somebody shows up. You know, so
that's pretty good.
Yeah, that was a big, big deal.
Right, so when you were out there doing construction, I guess you would also have your security detail either from the same company or from a partner company.
No, we had U.S. Army or Marines, depending upon which base. Yeah, that's when you're non-security like that, because you're not allowed to carry weapons on you, so you have to have security with you. Company's not going to provide their own security because that's going to cost them too much money, right? Well, the military have to have us there, so they're going to provide the security. So they'll go through and pick and choose guys from different platoons, whether, you know, they're, for whatever reason, they want to, you know, get these guys for PSD, which is personal security detail, and they'll go through and they'll cherry pick, you know, guys from each platoon, a couple of guys from this platoon, guy from this platoon, so on and so forth, and they'll get 12 guys together with an officer and say, okay, you're on PSD for the next 6 months. And they've now created a new, you know, basically a platoon. Not really. It's more like a squad. But there you go. This is your fucking unit for the next 6 months. You're the officer in charge. Congratulations. Have fun. See you later. And then in 6 months, when those guys rotate out, they rotate in 12 new guys. And it's all dependent upon, you know, what base you're at, who's running the base, you know, what they get, who they can get, so on and so forth. But yeah, it's constantly changing, and it's, you know, basically just another job for them. A lot of guys loved PSD because it's a cushy fucking job when you think about it. You know, you go with
yeah, right.
Yeah.
I guess you're not on those fucking daily patrols and shit. It's a bit more relaxed.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, you're not going out on combat patrols. With us, you were still going outside the wire every day. I mean, we fucking left at 5 a.m. every morning, went out to job site and stuff like that. Still, you know, had shit happen, but you know, you're not out kicking in doors or shit like that. You know, you're majority of the time you're hanging out, pulling security, listening to the fucking radio. You know, so it was, and you came home every night. You were guaranteed to come home every single night. You know, there is no staying in the field for us. So you got to come home every single night and sleep in your bed because you had to fucking chew, unless we, you know, had to bounce over to some other camp for a few days or a week at maximum, and then we'd go into entry housing, which was just a big fucking tent with a bunch of cots in it that fit, you know, 20 people or so. But other than that, you went home every night to your chew that had air conditioning, and, you know, you could sit on your fucking laptop, or, you know, you could go to the gym, or fucking go into the mess hall and grab fucking chow at 11 o'clock at night. So, I mean, it was a pretty cushy job for most military. Yeah, and like Riley said, they're still getting combat pay, even though majority of the time they're not in combat. Now, like I said, there was still situations that happened, you know, where there was some firefights and shit like that, and luckily we never lost anybody, never even had anybody get hit. I mean, and the thing is, you know, I say that those guys, you know, they liked the job because it was cushy and stuff like that, but they still took it very, very fucking seriously. Like, they did not dick around. Safety was number one, and ours above everyone else's. And they were amazing fucking guys. The best guys I've ever met in my life. You know, and I've told the story before that one day we were on the job and had a guy start taking random pot shots with an AK from, I mean, a pretty long ways out. I'd say he had to have been 600-700 meters out. I didn't get to see the actual building it was shooting from until after it was all done and over with. But we were up on the building when the shots started ringing, and they immediately got us down. And they fucking kicked in somebody's front door, and they were like, United States Army coming in, fucking shoved us into the house, put us in the corner, and set a guy right outside the front door with us, one outside the fucking back door, and then we heard the 50 open up on the truck, because we had gun trucks with us. We had gun truck front, gun truck rear, and then we had our civilian trucks in the center. And I heard the 50 open up. These motherfuckers dropped the house on his head with the 50. Like, they were not fucking around at all. I mean, a couple boxes of 50 went down range that day for a single shooter with an AK. And then they had another element come in and clear it, because our PSD wasn't allowed to leave us at any point in time. So they called in for another element to push up and clear the building, which took them a while to get out there. So they just sat there and held security while they were waiting. But yeah, they got up there and dude was fucking dead. And they literally dropped the fucking building on his head with the 50 cal. And he, you know, like I said, took a couple of pot shots at us with an AK. So, and that goes back to, you know, kind of the, you know, the situation of Jimmy Bim Bob fucking, you know, defending us. And yes, it's a U.S. citizen, and, you know, there would be huge issues with, you know, soldiers not wanting to engage U.S. citizens and stuff like that. Like, moral dilemmas completely aside, like, when they're willing to drop like 500 rounds of fucking 50 cal on a dude and level a building on his forehead, they're gonna fuck you up trying to hide in the fucking woods. Like, it's not gonna work out for you.
We have drones that have thermal imaging, you know?
We have drones that carry fucking Hellfire missiles, dude.
Yeah.
You don't have to leave the fucking office.
Right.
You could do it with an Xbox controller.
Make a phone call.
Well, they can do it with an Xbox controller, you know, once in a while. Otherwise, you got to be like the Navy and have a fucking $300,000 joystick until they realize an Xbox controller can do the same thing for $30.
Right.
Need a Thrustmaster.
That was the fucking dumbest shit I had ever seen, dude.
Did it take like 80 hours of training to use that thing? Then it took like the Xbox controller like 3.
Yeah, and it costs $300-some thousand fucking dollars for a goddamn controller that takes $30. You've got to be fucking kidding me. You're telling me that you're telling me that, like, my 3-year-old nephew is capable of operating a fucking nuclear submarine now because you idiots finally realize that an Xbox controller works just as well? Like, fucking hell.
It probably comes so natural to, like, most people that use it. Like, oh, like, I know this. Like, they hold the controller, like, I know this.
Well, that was the thing. That's why they said the training was so easy, is because the guys that were operating it were so familiar with the controller that they didn't need to, okay, this is what this does. They already know how to use a fucking Xbox controller.
I'm guessing the joystick's up and down. Like, yeah, you
Yeah,
know this.
yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah.
I was joking. Is that real?
Yeah, that's legit.
Yeah,
There was
true.
a fucking.
Wow.
It was
joking.
oh fuck, what's the big nuke subs? Is it Dallas
Boomers?
class? No, I can't remember the actual class of the submarine, but the big nuke subs, the missile boats, they have some controller for something, and it's like
Periscope.
dual joysticks or something, and it costs like 300,000 or some shit. And the Navy decided to switch over and use an Xbox controller for it. Los Angeles class, that's it.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say Los Angeles, yeah.
And it works. It's like, you've got to be fucking kidding me, dude. Myers, go ahead and link that in my Twitch chat, if you would, please, so these guys in chat can read that if they wish.
Apologies about it being The Verge. That was the first article.
But yeah, it's fucking insane, dude. And like, the thing that gets me is the Air Force has been doing it for a while with drones and shit. They've used fucking Xbox controllers for drones. I don't know if they do it. I don't think they do it regularly. I'm not sure the exact situation what that's been used, but I've seen photos of them using Xbox controllers to control drones. So
I don't see why they would. I mean, to be frank, we have whatever platform they're using to train on. I can only assume it can't be that difficult to make it a simple transition and seamless transition over to
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
a similar
absolutely.
platform. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, I guess like with the drone thing, if you were, I'm just hazarding a guess, you use the controller maybe if you're just doing very like chilled out, just kind of reconnaissance and flying it. But I think as soon as you're getting ready to do anything, you'd probably switch over to a proper flight setup.
Well, yeah, because everybody knows a HOTAS Warthog is better than a fucking Mad Cat. I mean, fucking Christ.
Jesus, you're old. Mad Cats.
Hey, Mad Cats is still around. Fuck you. Like, I've got a fucking Mad Cats controller sitting here next to me. I have no idea how fucking old it is.
Controller.
Right from came from the what was the game store on the Blockbusters?
Blockbuster.
Yeah,
Oh,
it was called
Hollywood
Blockbuster.
Video.
Or the Hollywood Video, the game one in the Hollywood Video, whatever the. Never
Game
mind.
Craze.
There
Game
you go.
Craze.
Anyway,
Yeah.
detracting from the
I
conversation.
don't remember.
My apologies, gents.
Okay, so now that I've gone on a long fucking rant that I didn't fucking intend to about contracting and stuff like that, and I guess one of these days I need to just sit down and actually kind of get into that and actually go a little more in depth into the history and how that worked and what we did and shit like that. Because I have people ask me about it all the time, and they, because like even last week, I had somebody ask me, like, why in the, like, where are you from? What the fuck is your story? Because you're not military, but you talk like you're military. You have experience like your prior fucking military, but you're not military. You worked with the military for 2 fucking years, but you're not military. Like, what in the fuck? So I guess one of these podcasts, I need to just kind of sit down and explain how the fuck everything worked and what exactly we did. So maybe next week or something, we'll go through all that, and you guys can have fucking story time with Papa Wargames.
Just a secret member of the Michigan.
Yeah,
Militia.
I secretly am the head of all Michigan militias.
I would be surprised if you just fucking walk down there. They'd probably make you the head.
Fuck no, they wouldn't, because I'd fire fucking 99% of them and be like, you're fucking retarded, fat, and stupid. Get the fuck away from me. So what I actually wanted to really get into this week for the podcast was talking about.
Oh, so now it's starting?
Yeah. The podcast is actually starting now. So
Play the intro.
yeah. Let's get the avatar going.
That was a
and
good cold open. That was a good cold open.
yeah, I don't know. I felt it was a little weak in some parts, but we'll work on it. So what you guys have been watching in the fucking background while we've been running our cock holsters here is the FTX from this last Sunday with Task Force Alpha. And I was filling in with 1.3 Alpha, and I was an AR, and 1.3 Alpha consisted of Drum, Hammer, myself, and Yogi.
Oh,
And a
God.
lot of people were probably confused by that. Like, how in the fuck are you Drum and Hammer in the same fire team?
Yeah, who the fuck is Yogi?
Yeah, right. Well, the fucked up thing is Soto was actually off Sunday. He wasn't working. And we're like, dude, we wish we would have fucking known. Like, we would have got you in here as our fourth guy. We could have had the entirety of Unit HQ as a fire team during a fucking FTX. That shit would have been epic. Granted, the squad leader would have probably shit himself more than he already did, but it would have been fucking epic. So the and actually, Caldwell, you're right. It was very lackluster fucking saw use because it's not quite as noticeable here, but at the start of this fucking operation, my fucking frames were absolute dog shit, dude. Like, there was times I was dropping below 10 frames, which shouldn't be possible for my machine, but it's ArmA, so it is. Which is why I had to fucking tell
Milius.
Aaron afterwards, like, yeah, you can't have that much shit down at the start.
Milius, do not act like you have a fucking 1080 in your computer. You have a You have a toaster.
That was
what
my
you have.
point. That was my point. Is like, welcome to my world, there, bro.
God. I
Shit,
take 1 week off.
that was
Zeusing
my
and fucking-
world a long time ago when we were in Operation Red Hammer on Chernogorsk. That was my world. I assaulted
Yep.
Electro at 5 frames per second. All right.
I was going to say that was most of my experience here in the unit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I tell you what, you want a hairy mission? Assault a town like that with a douchebag like Richardson Zeusing at 5 frames per second. Tell you what, you want a fucking rage-inducing gaming session? That'll do it. So, anyways, this FTX, the reason that Drum, myself, and Hammer were all on the same fire team is this was a very different FTX for us. We had decided to do 2IC training, which is fairly common in like squad trainings. A lot of the times 2ICs will step up and take over the squad because the squad leader will be, Zeusing and shit like that. But in my 3 years of being here, we had never trained at a task force level where everyone was 2ICs. Everybody stepped up. So it was something completely new for us. And, we'd been talking about it for a while and wanting to do it. And finally, this FTX cycle rolled around since we finished up Thunderstorm. We're like, well, this is the time. If we're going to do it, we're going into a fresh FTX cycle right off of a deployment. The platoons are pretty full. We've got a lot of, really good NCOs, a lot of guys that are rank capped and stuff. So, now's the time to do it if we're going to do it. So we made the decision to, go ahead, put it in this cycle and, see what happens. Now, it was either going to be one of two possibilities. Either A, they impress the shit out of us, do a really good job, and, kind of make us go, why in the fuck are these squad leaders even running these squads? Because their 2ICs just kicked their ass. Or B, they were going to fail miserably, and it was going to piss all of us off because it's like, why in the fuck are these guys not getting trained on how to do the job of the guy above them? Luckily, it was A, and they did a fucking outstanding job. They were able to push through a very large town with a lot of shit in it at a pretty rapid pace. I mean, a genuinely impressive pace. They were able to push through this town and get it cleared pretty goddamn well. I mean, there was not too much shit that was left behind. And the stuff that was left, you can't really nitpick that much when stuff is left in a town like this because of the way that troops are garrisoned. They won't move. If he doesn't engage from inside the house, we have no idea that the guy's in there, and he could be 3-4 doors down from the last building that we cleared. So we have no reason to kick in that door.
We actually encountered that on the south end of the town, where we pushed through, pretty solidly cleared it, took out some igloo chairs, and didn't take any contact from buildings. Then, 2 blocks later, there was a guy prone on the roof of an area we cleared, and he just didn't engage us till we were 2 blocks away.
Right.
So we had to push back. We're not that far. We kind of schwacked him from the roof, but
right. And Storm, the Ace mod we use is just Ace. I don't know if it's 3.2 3.6 or 3.8 or whatever fucking one, but it's just ACE. But our ACE is modified by our own team, so that's why things work a little bit differently for us. But yeah, so the entirety of the task force basically had to step up one level, and every 2IC stepped up to a leadership role, and like I said, it went all the way up. So me, Hammer, and Drum, none of us were task force commander, which was very weird because it's always one of us.
Telling me.
And the reason Mr. Melius is here is that he was the task force commander. So I wanted to talk to you about it, Melius, and kind of get your thoughts on it. First and foremost, what was your initial thought when you heard from Hammer, your task force commander tonight?
Shitballs. Yeah. I mean, it was kind of just the realization, like, I guess that when him and I had talked earlier in the day about the FTX, and he's like, by the way, it is 2IC night. And him and I had a conversation, and my whole point was, that's great. I think that's a training that everybody needs.
Right, because you didn't realize that 2IC night meant for you too.
Yeah, I thought I was in the clear. I was like, great, my guys need some training. This will be really good. We'll get some good training in. And I show up, and he's like, and Hammer's main says, by the way, no, this means you too. So it was definitely kind of a bit of a shock, and I was nervous as all get up. I was like a schoolgirl, talking to her first date or whatever, but surprise, as you said, like the entirety of the task force did a really, really good job, and the platoon, even though it was all people stepping up, was surprisingly strong. So luckily for me, that tells me as a platoon leader that at least the guys under know what's going on. So now we all, there's no excuses.
Right. And that's, I had mentioned during my stream while you were given the briefing. I mean, you could tell, you were nervous giving the briefing. I mean, obviously, your first time fucking running a task force and being responsible for everything that's fucking going on and stuff. And you're given this briefing. And I told the guys in my chat, like, I'm glad that he's nervous. Like, that makes me happy. I would much rather you be nervous and understand the weight of what is about to go down, as opposed to being just overly fucking confident and being like, oh yeah, I got this, no big deal. Because I genuinely believe, had you gone into that way fucking overconfident, things could have turned out differently.
If
for
I would
your
have assumed
perspective,
that it would have turned out well. We would
right?
have gone to a shit show real quick. Yeah, I agree.
So when you seen the objective that we were going to be taking, and obviously, it was on you to decide who was doing what, who was going where, how we were inserting, all of that stuff. What were your, I guess, initial thoughts of it? Like, did you feel confident in, making the decisions as far as, going in via the birds, so-and-so, this squad going here, this squad going there? Did you feel confident in doing all of that, or did you kind of second guess yourself at all?
Luckily, that's not a difficult decision to make, because while there are like some simple variables, audibles, if you will, that you can kind of throw, the way that the land was laid out, there was a mountain to our left side, and to our right side there was a river. So we were really on a very narrow path. Conveniently, that just funneled the platoon into an easy clearing process. Really, it made it fairly simple to get online and just to push on through. Kind of, I guess, not necessarily a side note, but the week prior we had platoon training, and I had gone back through some of the old patrol reports for some of those, infamous missions back in the day, and read up on the Rosman Mile report. And so we were recently back, and we did a platoon training in that Rosman Valley. So it was very simple. Was my point. You confined space, you don't have a lot of area to maneuver. Everybody's moving in the same direction. So it was comfortable. At least I was confident that the platoon was going to be able to get that taken care of, because we had just done that very efficiently the week prior.
Right. So once it all kind of kicked off for you,
Yeah.
and the radios start going and everybody's talking and shit like that. Did you? Because I remember us talking about when you moved to platoon lead and realized, no, holy shit. Did you get that kind of feeling again, like, oh wow, like so this is what they do? Did you get kind of that surprised feeling, or did you go into that already kind of like, yeah, I've got a pretty good understanding of what a task force commander does?
Well, if you would have asked me had I not been told, hey, you're leading the task force, what the job would entail, I probably would have had a much better time laying down, maybe a checklist, if you will, of the jobs to accomplish. But definitely, as I was taken by surprise, I didn't quite wasn't quite ready and paired. At least I didn't feel that way. But as you said in the beginning, because I was nervous, it kept me on my toes, which I think was good. That was the key thing out of all of it, is that I kept paying attention to what I was doing. I didn't just wasn't comfortable getting sitting back on my laurels, I guess.
Right. So, as we said, the guys did pretty well. The entirety of the task force, and so by the end of it, did you feel like you were a little more confident, doing something like that? And B, did you feel like you had even more of a grasp on not only what, our job is as a task force commander, but what your job really entails as a platoon leader working for a task force commander?
Yeah, I think that's a great way to phrase the question. I kind of drilled into the platoon, not drilled in, but I definitely got on my high horse, I guess, my soapbox during a debrief at the end, platoon level, and that was an important thing that I had tried to emphasize with the guys, is that while this was fun and yeah, we did really great, the point of this was to help you understand how to do your boss's job better, because that's really the only way that this structure, this organizational structure, really can function, is if you are working to achieve your boss's job, right? It makes it just run a lot more efficiently and much more hive mind like, if you will. You just get into that groove, and if you can start thinking like that, that's when the system that is set up really flourishes.
Right. And, because we were talking about this Sunday night after the FTX and stuff. Like we were saying then, the better you understand the job of the guy above you, the better you can do your job, because you know what he needs. You know what he's going to want you to do. So that's when you get into a situation where you can almost react quicker than what he's, even telling you to do something. By time he's telling you, hey, move over here, you're already in the process of doing it. And that comes from knowing the job of the guy above you and understanding what he needs and what he expects you to do and so on. So the question I have for the rest of you guys, besides fucking Loster, because fuck you.
That's
But
fair.
the question I have for the rest of you guys is, do you guys think that that's a type of training that, not necessarily that you want or don't want, but do you guys think that that's a training that you can learn from, to have, to have to step up to the job of the guy above you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
I think there's nothing better than practical, rather than sitting there talking about it.
Right.
Yep, I absolutely agree. And plus, in the context of like a full task force operation, it's pretty rare that the two ICs get to experience that from end to end. Usually it's just, you're down. Like the longest you'll be stepping up is if, God forbid, your squad lead goes KA or something like that.
Yeah, and you've got to, take over for 10 minutes while he gets reinserted.
Right, yeah, and even then, that's pretty limited. And I think actually our squad was the only one that didn't have the 2IC step up, because that would have been me, but it was also Barton's first night. He just took over the squad, so it was like essentially the same thing.
Right. So, and real quickly, Sal, since you are actual military, not for the U.S., but you are military, how often do you guys do any type of like drills like that, if any?
We usually tend to do it twice a month, from privates to even a platoon.
Okay, so fairly common.
Yep.
And that is, I know that's something that's preached on a lot in the Army is to, you have to know the job of the guy above you because you never know what's going to happen. And you have to, train the guy below you to do your fucking job. There's that famous fucking line from We Were Soldiers about, training the guy below you and this and that. But that's legit. I mean, that's legit how it's done and how guys are trained because you don't ever know when that time may arise where, as soon as you get out of the bird or as soon as you get out of the truck or whatever, you're fucking, your squad leader, your team leader, whatever could get smoked and now you're in command. So, I mean, I know, like I said, for us, it's trained on a lot. I didn't know for you guys, obviously, but it seems like, twice a month. I mean, that's pretty goddamn common.
Yeah, and from my last deployment to Poland and Ukraine and stuff like that during the winter in December, I'm usually a squad leader, so I only deal with platoon head. I got 2 teams under me. That's for me around 20-ish people. At that point, one other squad leader called in sick makes me platoon sergeant. And if we don't train on that, that's around 20 more people below you under command. If you're not trained, that's not going well.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I was talking about logistics, about the Air Force, our Chinooks had to be guidance by me, even our mechanized. I mean, I was working on 3 separate divisions of my whole force over there as a one-man army, basically. And we always tell newcomers, like, be prepared to be trained on radio. You gotta know what's going on. If I go down, I don't give a shit who picks up. If it's the private or another sergeant, they all need to know what to do when your quote-unquote actual goes down.
Right. Yeah, it doesn't matter who the fuck it is that answers the radio, as long as it's fucking somebody.
Exactly.
And that's, that's something that we obviously harp on a lot with like 2ICs stepping up on net and, letting people know that their actual is down and stuff like that is, you can't, at any point in time, you can't allow that flow of communication, that flow of information to stop. Because if it stops, we're all dead.
Right.
If that information stops, if that communication halts for, any period of time, that slows down the entirety of the fucking machine. And if the entire machine slows down, we all fucking die. So that's, I think that the higher up you move kind of in the COC and the more responsibility that you have, the better you understand that and you understand how much importance the I guess kind of not necessarily the pacing, but just maintaining momentum and not allowing the element to stagnate. You realize more and more how important that is. Because, when you do take into account that it's not a matter of one guy, it's a matter of 60 fucking guys. And that one guy, though, can have a fucking impact. Because if that one guy gets slowed up, that slows down the 3 other guys in his team, which slows down the fucking 6 other guys in his squad, which slows down the 30 other guys in his fucking platoon, which slows down the fucking, 30 other guys in the goddamn task force. So it's a very much so a big goddamn butterfly effect when shit like that happens. And like I said, the higher up you move, I think the better perspective you get of that. And I guess that's kind of another question for you, Melly, is do you think, or do you feel like you have a better understanding of how the task force works as a whole, as opposed to what you had simply operating at a platoon level?
I think he's stepped
I think
away
he's
for a second.
AFK.
Oh, did he? God damn it. Well, I know Wasn't it you, Loster, that was you were talking about when like the first time you ran with us at an HQ level? You were talking about how cool it was to watch from kind of that level and watch all the moving parts kind of work
Yeah,
together, right?
the first time I ever got to be a battle buddy. I think it was to drum. I think it was a task
Oh, yeah,
force
that was the night
commander.
you were eating a fucking
I was
cookie on the
eating a
radio.
cookie on the radio. Yeah,
Yeah, fucking
yeah.
dipshit.
And to hear how that, because I was on point one, and I think I was on the other one, the not point one.
Yeah,
the
31.
31, yeah. And I could hear, I heard you talking to Dagger. I heard Dagger talking to the Kaz. I heard you talking to the platoon HQ. I heard you talking to Havoc 4, and it was really like, I'm familiar with being a squad leader, and that alone, I mean, you're talking about 4 squads and platoon HQ on the same net, and like, I thought that was like cluttered and like messy.
Oh,
And then I
I
heard,
still think it's more chaotic, but maybe that's just because I'm more used to company level at this point.
yeah, that's true. I guess I just like, you might be right, because I mean, you got 4 squad leaders and platoon. So I think platoon might have it the worst though. Maybe because they have to listen to like their medic and you guys up above and all 4 squad leaders down below. Like that's a tough spot to be in.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, just to hear how it's kind of like peeking in the back of the kitchen and seeing how the sausage gets made. It was kind of cool, like to be in that position. It's kind of like backstage.
Right. Yeah, definitely. It's like fucking getting to watch the magic trick be done. And it's like, oh,
Yeah.
that's how it works. Oh, Melius is back.
Yeah.
So you decided to leave right before I asked you a question.
Shit. Well, sorry.
So my question was, do you have a better understanding now of how the entirety of the task force like works together, as opposed to when you're had only ever been at a platoon level? Do you kind of see more now, like how Havoc 4 fits into it, how Dagger and the air assets fit into the task force?
Oh yeah, I think it helps give me a better understanding as a platoon leader who my other really teammates are. That's the way I
Mhm.
guess I got to think about it. You know what I'm saying? My teammates are the other assets. Those are the guys that are there to help me and my guys do our job, and we're there just to kind of do the same. It just puts a better perspective. I think that's kind of the overall, or maybe not the overall, but the thing about the training we had was that it just helped put things into a better perspective for my own job. And again, I'm confident for the men under me.
Right. And it's because I remember talking about this Sunday, that's it used to be back when Havoc 1 first kind of not necessarily stood back up, but once the unit kind of stood back up, if you will, and then Havoc 2 got stood back up, it was on Platoon HQ to run the task forces at that point in time. So, then it was myself and Person who were Platoon HQ for Havoc 1. And so we were Platoon HQ and we were the task force commander. And generally, the way we broke it up is Person took kind of the typical task force commander role, and I just did my job as a platoon sergeant and ordered the squads around. But it was a little bit easier. It wasn't as hard as most people would think, simply because you had backup. You had another person to fall back on, which was, either your platoon leader or your platoon sergeant. As to where, now as a task force commander, there is no backup. There's no one to, pick up the slack if you go down, except in the rare occasion that, myself, Hammer, or Drum will fill in at an HQ level. Then there's 2 of us, and, it does make the job a lot fucking easier when there's 2 of us at the HQ level. But, generally, it's only 1 of us. And there's, Dagger can, pick up and let everybody know, hey, task force commander's down, you're running your own fucking platoon. I'll take care of the air assets and Havoc 4 and stuff, but it's not, it's obviously not the same. So did you get that feeling at all while you were task force commander? Like, oh shit, if I go down, what the fuck's gonna happen? Like, who's gonna run this shit? Like, were you worried at all?
So to be frank, I think
You're
we
not Frank
commented. In the beginning, we kind of you hinted at it that I sounded like a real butterbar, like giving the briefing in the beginning, and I realized after this training that I kind of was acting very hesitantly in the sense that have been very reliant and not reliant, maybe dependent's not the right word. I'm not quite figuring out the right word, but we'll go with that for now. On Sergeant Reynolds, my platoon sergeant, to help guide me along in the beginning, and it was a nice realization of how important that relationship is, if that makes sense. When I was out there and I was going, I don't know if I should. I can't really clarify with somebody and just confirm that I'm thinking the right thing.
Right.
I can't.
There's nobody to go. Should I call in that airstrike? It's on me.
A stupid decision,
right?
Yeah, exactly. It's my decision. So
yeah,
so
and
that
it's
was nice.
It's I mean, and I know most people probably know this or whatever, but I mean that's as realistic as it gets in terms of you being very fresh as a platoon lead and coming in and having an experienced platoon sergeant to lean on and say, hey, LT, that's probably not going to work. I think we should do this. A platoon sergeant's in real life, a platoon sergeant's never going to be like, no, we're not doing this, we're doing this. But they'll tell the lieutenant, LT, I think we should do this. And generally the LT is going to go, yeah, that's probably right. And then he'll, go tell the guys, hey, this is what we're going to do. And it won't be the platoon sergeant, saying, hey, this is what I thought we should do. Like, a platoon sergeant's never going to take credit for his own fucking ideas. He's always going to pass that off on the lieutenant and say, hey, this works. Lieutenant thought it up. If it doesn't work, yeah, that was my idea. Sorry, I fucked up. But I mean, that's basically the role of that senior enlisted is to help the officer along and make him look good. I mean, that flat out.
That's a huge thing too.
Make the officer look good. Take care of your guys and make your officer look good until the point where he cannot be made to look good, and then it's, hey, first sergeant, we got to do something. This lieutenant is a danger. So that's a different situation. But and I'm actually interested in this from you, Sal. Is that like relatable for you guys? Is it very much so the same? Are your enlisted guys, basically like that responsibility, or?
If I can speak from my standpoint in my own squad or platoon, yes.
Yeah, so
we tend to take over 90% of the US forces. Some things go a little bit different, but the basics are exactly the same.
Right, okay. So it is very much so that, for you guys, the NCOs and the SNCOs, they're really the backbone, and it's just their job to do what the officer says and make them look good until the officer is retarded, and then
basically, yeah,
get rid of the officer.
yeah.
When they go full Encino Man.
Yeah. So have you ever had that situation though, Sal, where you've received a shit officer? And it's like, okay, what do we do with this guy?
I'm currently dealing with 2 guys in my platoon right now. Since we don't have a platoon sergeant anymore, it's me and the LT. And yeah, this guy is a fucking retard. And he has the stripes. That's bugging me. He has the stripes. He has served his time. He did his deployment. So respect for that. But on the inside, in our our business, yeah, he's not capable enough to be an NCO or whatsoever. This guy doesn't apply any rules to his own squad or doesn't teach their man what to do, like our 2SC trainings, his squad is terrible. And thankfully, nobody from his squad watches this podcast. But no,
Not thankfully, damn it! I want as many viewers as I want. No,
no.
but yeah, I can understand that. I mean, that's one of those people that it's like, how in the fuck did you make it through deployment?
Exactly. Probably somebody held his hand tight during the deployment or whatsoever. He's a great guy, but he got offered. He skipped from basically quote unquote specialist to sergeant last month. He's not ready.
Yeah.
And there's some fuck in a nice suit saying, "Yeah, we need that spot filled." Well, welcome. Yeah, that's not fun.
Yeah, that's one of those cases of, somebody getting a seat because of a little bit of politics and some fucking sweet talking and shit.
Yep.
Which is why so many, I think, because it is a little bit different when you are in country, when you're deployed, especially in an operational combat area, things are very different. And the politics, at a very high level, no, but at a lower level, the politics kind of disappear a lot in a combat area. And it's, it's not, hey, this is so-and-so, his cousin is so-and-so or whatever. It's more so, can you do the fucking job? No? Then fuck off. And, there's obviously still shit like that goes down, but like, especially, if you've watched Generation Kill, that fucking, famous scene of Mattis on the bridge, fucking relieving Colonel Dowdy. And while it didn't exactly go down, just like that, Dowdy was relieved of command. And, like, that was no bullshit. And that was straight up, that was a fucking general relieving a colonel of command. Like, full bird, like, you're done. You no longer have a job here. Goodbye. And that's why a lot of people loved Mattis. Like, that dude did not fuck around. And he still doesn't fuck around, which is why a lot of people still love him.
He don't take shit from anybody.
No.
From Congress, from nobody.
Oh my god, dude, that video of him at fucking Congress when she's asking him about trans soldiers or whatever, and he's like, ma'am, that has absolutely no effect whatsoever. I don't care who it is. My only concern is, can they do the job? Do they risk operational security? If it's no, then I don't have a problem. And he's just so fucking straight-faced about it and just like, bitch, you're not bringing me into this political fucking debate. I'm a fucking Marine, okay? I'm not some fucking yuppie on CNN or some shit. Like, I'm not getting drugged into this debate. I don't care if they got a dick. I don't care if they got a vagina. I don't care what the fuck their issue is, whether they got fucking real tits, fake tits, whatever. If they can pull the trigger and get the job done, that is all I care. It's like, yes, I fucking love you. It's, that video is damn near as good as that video with McCain talking about the A-10. Have you guys ever seen that one?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
When he's like, don't insult my intelligence. Oh my god, it is so good. Oh, I love that.
After.
Oh, it's fucking great, because it's when they're talking about retiring the A-10 and picking up the operational load with like F-15s and B-1s and stuff like that. And, McCain is an Air Force veteran. Think of him what you will, whatever. The fact is, he is an Air Force veteran. He does give a shit about what's
Vietnam,
going
man.
on. Yeah, he was
Yeah.
POW in Vietnam.
Yep.
And, like I said, think about him what you will. He does legit give a shit about our troops. And, as I said, he's Air Force, but he gives a shit about the guys on the ground. And, he's very passionate when it came to the A-10 and them wanting to retire it. When it came to politicians, he was number one fucking up front saying, no, we are not retiring that fucking airframe because you cannot provide something that will do what it does. And that's what that whole video is. Then an Air Force general in there, explaining, well, we can pick up the workload with the F-15 and the B-1 and this and that. And McCain's like, don't insult my intelligence. I've spoken to these guys. I've been there. I've seen what this aircraft is capable of. There is no airframe capable of picking up the workload that this thing does in terms of close air support. And I mean, he was absolutely spot on with everything he says in that hearing.
Right.
And it was really nice to hear, you know, a politician get kind of that kind of worked up about,
Passionate, I guess.
yeah, basically about the fucking safety of our guys and, you know, doing a job to basically protect them, which is what close air support is all about. And, you know, granted, again, he's prior military, so there's a big difference there. He's not a career politician. He was military first, which is why, like, with him and Mattis and so many other, there's a fuck ton of prior military going for office over this next year. And, like, there's a kind of a, I don't know if really a calling is a word for it, but there's a lot of people that are kind of getting the notion going that they think to be a politician, you should have a requirement to have served in the military, which I can't necessarily disagree with, but I also can't agree with completely.
Right.
I would much prefer it. I would. That would probably be a swing for my vote either way. If they'd been military, I'd be like, yeah, they know their shit.
Yeah, I honestly think it really depends, though, on what type of office they're going for, you know?
Right.
If you're going for Secretary of Defense, yeah, it doesn't really get much better than a guy whose nickname is fucking Mad Dog. But if you're going for the head of the fucking EPA, like, I don't know if you should have been a fucking pilot of a bomber jet, you know? It's just, those streams don't really cross all that well. But when it comes to, you know, something like that, where military is concerned, yeah, I think it should be pretty fucking important that you're prior military, you know, and not just like, oh, I did a stint in the National Guard and, you know, did that for 4 years and was never deployed. Like, you should need to have legit operational combat experience, you know, for a job like that where you're going to be deciding what troops are doing. Yeah, you need combat experience. For, you know, and obviously we've had a lot of presidents that are prior military and stuff, and, you know, people have even said, hey, you should have to have served the nation to be the president of the nation. And I can't necessarily disagree with that either. But I also can't completely agree with it just because of what the U.S. is and what it stands for. And, you know, we don't have what is a militarized government. We're not like a dictatorship and stuff like that. But it's also the fact that you're the commander in chief. And ultimately, at the end of the day, it's your decision where our troops go and what they do. Yes, you know, Congress has play in it whether or not we declare war, but we haven't fucking declared legit war since fucking Korea. So there's still been conflict since fucking Korea. You know, we haven't exactly consulted Congress anytime recently. So yeah, I can kind of get behind that argument that, you know, you need to have served in the military to, you know, be able to tell them, hey, we're going to send, you know, 100,000 troops to the Middle East. Hold on, Chief. Do you exactly understand what that fucking entails? No?
First
okay.
step is go ahead and point to exactly where you want us on this map here.
Yeah.
Let's test that first.
Right. Well, when it comes to politics and stuff, like, you know, one of the things you think about is like political agenda, and inherently people that have served, you know, particularly in combat scenarios, their agenda when it comes to the military is not driven by politics based on their experience, which is why
and it's generally do everything we can to stay out of combat.
Right.
Which is one of the reasons.
Combat, they know.
Yeah, which is one of the reasons that Mattis was such a good choice for that job. Is, you know, because everybody was like, oh, it's Mad Dog Mattis, and he's gonna fucking take us to war and this and that. And it's like,
remember when the shit came out about his quote, "How killing's fun, ma'am"? Well, that's because it, you know.
Yeah, exactly. And everybody thought he was just gonna be some warmonger, and it's like, this dude has seen legit combat.
And
he's doing everything. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And he's a historian, most of all. Has studied combat his entire fucking life. And, you know, he has done everything possible to keep us out of combat. And that's why, because he's been there. He's fucking done it. He knows the horror
as a
of
platoon
it.
leader in Vietnam.
Right. Like, he knows how bad it can get. So he's done everything he possibly fucking can to keep us out of combat. You know, and that, to me, is a fucking good thing. Like, this dude knows the horrors of war. The last thing he wants to do is start another one. So no, he's not going to fucking poke Putin and be like, hey, I got a bigger navy. Come on, you want to start some shit? He's like, no, hey man, we're cool. We pissed you off. I'm sorry.
Yep.
It's all good. Yeah, I will fucking end you if you start some shit. But it ain't gonna start here.
Then.
Well, it's the same in the Netherlands now. We got a Minister of Defense, and that lady does a shit job. Carries the title, doesn't do shit. We got a captain from the Green Berets who stepped up. He's like, you know what? File your report, go home. You're done. And the whole country is, oh, you can't say that, you can't do that. And it's like, I've led a platoon worth of Green Berets for 18 years. So trust me, I know what to do. Since people knew his name and now are seeing improvement for forces, are like, why do we have a minister who just did some college and has a nice suit on instead of someone who served over 25 years?
Right, somebody that actually knows what the fuck they're doing.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. There'd be some of like requirements before you get that job.
Yeah,
exactly.
it's like
not just smart talk and a nice suit.
Yeah, it's like there's always been people in like on Jocko's podcast and shit that, you know, in the comment sections are always saying Jocko for president and shit like that. And that would be fucking hilarious. Like if we had Jocko Willink as a fucking president, I mean that would be I would fucking love to see that. Like I mean if we can make fucking Trump president, we can make a former Navy SEAL president. It's possible. Anything's possible at this point.
If that happens, I'm gonna move over.
Yeah, I don't know. But to get, I guess, back to the original topic, we keep going off on fucking rants.
The first or the third one?
I was gonna ask you a question, but it's gonna.
Go ahead.
We don't really have like combat. Who's the last president that was like a combat veteran?
Probably Kennedy.
Oh, he was in the Navy in Vietnam, right?
Yeah.
He was on a patrol boat.
Yep.
Okay.
He was on a PT boat.
Yeah.
Really
very famous,
Bush
famously
senior,
on a patrol boat.
He
Senior,
fucked his
no.
back up.
Wasn't Bush in our Air Force?
He was in the Air National Guard. Didn't see combat.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Kennedy would have been the last one with actual legit combat experience.
It's just funny that what we've come from, like from our infancy as a country. Although not all the presidents, like John Adams was never in combat. I don't think Thomas Jefferson was ever in the military. But like Washington, fucking like Grant, like some of the big names that are like they're like forged in their leadership abilities are been forged in like combat, and we don't. We've kind of like I feel like we've kind of drifted away from that. Now it's all just politicians and politicians and politicians and
right.
politicians, lobbyists, politicians, lobbyists.
Yeah, but I don't think Bush had combat experience.
He was shot down and received the Distinguished Flying Cross as a naval aviator, apparently.
Oh,
that's what I just found.
When the hell was he shot down?
Shit in my pants.
God knows. I remember
between 42 and 45.
Huh.
The only reason he pings my head is I'm pretty sure I did an extensive amount of history on him when I was in college. I was like, I swear I've seen photos of him in uniform somewhere.
I was gonna say because I knew he was Navy reserves, but I didn't think he actually seen combat.
Yeah, apparently his ass was shot down. Yeah, I learned.
Yeah, I know. I know.
in
Junior was Air National Guard or whatever, and didn't have any combat. But granted, there wasn't really any conflicts. Well, I guess Vietnam would have been around his era. Yeah. But yeah, okay. So I guess Senior would have been the last one, and then before that would have been Kennedy. Yeah, I didn't know that Senior actually seen combat. And that was in World War II. I wonder what engagement that actually was, whether that was like Midway or, Guadalcanal, one
You
of those
keep
famous
talking. I'll be back in a
battles.
second.
Um,
Hey, keep talking. I'll be back in a
so,
second.
yeah, I'd be interested to know which actual engagement that was. Um, so, to get back to the FTX, did any of you guys fill in for that? Obviously, me and Melius were there, but were any of you guys there? McCoy, you were there, right?
Was that?
For the FTX Sunday, you were there, correct?
Yes.
And what were you actually? You were running your team, correct?
Sorry, say that one more time.
So, were you running your team, or did you have a 2IC stepping up and running your team?
I was running my team, actually. Probably should have had a 2IC step up, though.
Okay. But did it feel any different for you at that level? Everybody being 2ICs, did it feel any different for you at a fire team level, or did it just feel like a normal FTX for you?
Honestly, it felt pretty much like a normal FTX from my perspective.
That's a good sign.
Yeah, exactly. If you can't tell, if you couldn't tell that 2ICs were running everything, that's good. Which, you honestly couldn't. Like I said, with the rate that everybody moved through that town, you would never have, known that it was 2ICs running everything and that it was fucking like the most junior platoon leader in the entire unit running the task force. You would have had no idea. So good job not fucking it up.
Yeah, dude. Let me tell you.
So do you guys think now, and this is something that I was thinking about, do you guys think now that like every fucking squad in 2nd and 3rd platoon are doing 2IC trainings this week? Like, oh fuck, we better get ready for this.
It's a good thing.
I mean, I think in Havoc 2, at least for my squad, there's going to be no fucking issues.
Yeah, I think from the example that I've seen on Sunday, and just the reality is that if Havoc 1 didn't have much of a problem, I have a lot of confidence in the other platoons, just because we're almost full across the board, and a lot of us have been working together for a long time. That makes the biggest difference, I think.
Yeah, it's really gonna fuck them up when Saturday and Sunday we don't do 2IC training. They've been training for all this shit. They're like, oh wait, that's not what
They
we're
do a
doing.
convoy.
Right.
I've already sent out PMs being like, hey, just be ready.
Yeah, it's it's one of those that I'm waiting to see. They're already like, oh yeah, we got all our 2ICs all trained up, and then if we're like, oh well, we're not doing that, we're doing this.
3 hours of shooting.
Fuck. By the way, we're about to do a fucking 15-clip convoy. Have fun. All right. So gone on a few rants here, and we're already a little bit over time here, because we got a little sidetracked with everything. But the last thing I want to go over here is, I guess it's mostly for Melius because you've now had the fucking experience of it. But
Okay.
This is a question for everybody. Having done it now, having ran a task force, is that something any of you guys could see yourself doing in the future? Like, say, for whatever reason, like I went to reserves, or, Hammer or Drum or somebody went to reserves, and like, now there's somebody needs to run a task force. Do any of you guys feel like, yeah, that's something I would like to step up and do? Not something, yeah, I could do it, but is that something that you guys would look at and be like, yeah, I'd want to do that?
I'd love to try it.
I think
I would.
I think you would be surprised at how not difficult the job is, per se, right? I mean, we're
Hey,
in
fuck
a
off.
video
Don't be
game,
giving
so
away my
that's just a
secrets.
reality.
It's so easy. You just fucking drink
But-
lemonade all night.
Well, the reality here is, the way I look at it is that if you can be a kick-ass team lead, I'm confident you can be a kick-ass squad leader. And if you can learn to be a confident squad leader,
I'm confident you can be a kick-ass platoon leader. And if you can be a kick-ass platoon leader, I'm confident you can learn to do, to be a task force commander. The reality is, if you can do your job, if you're working to do your job right, you should be able to do your boss's job, or at least that should be your goal to be able to accomplish that at least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
What I think is most people, like especially new people, are like, oh fuck, I'm 2SC for a fighting. They get nervous. They feel uncomfortable with running 3 people around them, or 2-3 people, maybe more. Same for squad leading. I remember our first day squad leading, and I was sweating hands behind my desk, and I was like, shit, squad leading, fuck me.
Yeah. People get into their own heads a little too much.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know,
I
Yeah,
and
need to
not-
relax more, breathe more.
well,
Just
and I've
take it
explained it like this to a couple of people. When you really sit down and think about it, okay, like Melia said, if you can be a good team leader, you can do everything else just as well. Because when you think about it, as a team leader, you're responsible for 3 other guys, right? So essentially, you have 4 people that you're responsible for, 3 other guys and yourself. Okay, so you move up to a squad level. Now you're responsible for 2 team leaders, a medic, and yourself. So you're still responsible for 4 people. Yes, there's
Right.
3 other guys in each one of those teams, but at the end of the day, you're only really talking to 4 people still, at most. So it's you're talking to 3 people, unless you talk to yourself like I do.
I talked to myself.
So at the end of the day, you're still only responsible for 4 people. Just because you're leading 9 doesn't change anything. So then say you step up to a platoon level. Okay, now you're responsible for 4 squads. In reality, you're responsible for 4 squad leaders, and that's it. You have your platoon medic and your RTO and stuff, but really, it's not that much more. Yes, there is more radio traffic and stuff like that that's inherent with the job, but when you boil it all down, you're still only responsible for 4 squad leaders.
Right.
So then, okay, you go to a task force commander level. What are we responsible for? An infantry platoon, a mortar section, and dagger.
Right. If you just look at who's on your team, who are the people you're working with, they have other tools per se, right? The people under them, not the tools like as an offensive thing, but I guess
Yeah,
And your
just as
medic,
reality,
if you have
right?
one.
yeah,
But it's the same across the board. You're right.
yeah, exactly. At the end of the day, you're just a team leader.
Yeah.
All the way, yeah, like Drum just said in the chat there, you're basically a team leader at every level. Your team just gets bigger. That's all it is. You're, yes, responsible technically for more people, but you're still leading the same amount of people in terms of radios at all times. You never get more than 4 people, really, that you're dealing with.
Like to me, at least, as a team lead, I consider team leading the most difficult job, in the Army,
Right.
because it's up to the team lead, in actuality, to put into effect the intent of whatever order they receive. Like, they're the only ones that are actually having command and control over the direct weapon systems.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, a lot of team leaders don't realize how impactful they are on the overall situation.
Unfortunately.
And that's, I was talking about that with Drum last week before we went into the FTX, and talking about team leading and how, team lead's like the funnest job. And it is absolutely team lead, funnest fucking job there is, provided the other team leader is on the same kind of wavelength as you. And I've talked about this a couple of times, but, when you're a team lead, especially like myself or like Drum, and Hammer and stuff, you're pretty aggressive and, like to move quickly and stuff like that. It's great when you have another team leader who's that same way. Like if myself and Drum were team leading together, or myself and Hammer, who've spent a lot of time team leading together, it makes the job fun and it makes the job easy, because you're constantly working off of each other. As to where if you have, a team leader like myself and another team leader who's very hesitant and won't take any initiative and just waits for, the squad leader to issue a mortars and stuff like that, then you're constantly like, hey, hold up, you got to wait for Bravo. Hey, Bravo is back here. They got fucking wounded. I need you to come back, and this and that, and it's it slows down the entire process, and then makes you as a team leader just be like, fucking Christ, just shoot me, like
You know how many
just get it
times?
over with.
Yeah.
You know how many times I sighed in frustration when I was a squad leader because I had one team that was like fucking gung ho on point, kicking doors in, and the other team, I'm like, I kept looking at my
150 meters
my
back.
Android. I'm like,
Yeah.
why the fuck is he back there? Someone go fucking grab him by the fucking scruff of his neck and bring him up here.
Yeah.
But like I went through that stage of having one fire team kind of slower than the other, and then I got to past the point of being angry, just to the point of being really passive aggressive, just being like, "What are you guys doing back there, sucking each other's dicks?" And I've like a couple of operations. They didn't really like me saying it over the radio, and they finally like everyone worked together. This was like 6 months ago, I guess.
Yeah, it's and that's one of those, like, I love team leading, but I won't fill in as a team leader unless I know the other team leader is good. If I don't know them at all, or I know them to be very fucking hesitant, I won't fill in as a team leader, because like, no, I'm not working with that person. It's just gonna piss me the fuck off.
Do you have the same attitude towards filling in under a team leader that you don't like?
Oh, yeah,
Or not that
absolutely.
you don't like, but don't
Yeah,
like
if I
their
don't,
style?
if I don't like their team leading style, absolutely. If I
So
think that
cause
you're,
trouble, I guess.
yeah, if I think that you're too fucking slow, or whatever, you're too hesitant on shit, I won't fill in, because it's just gonna piss me the fuck off, and that's the last thing I need.
When I came back, last year in May, I was coming off of being a squad leader in the 15th, and when I came back to fill in as a specialist, one of the first times I filled in was back when Ferrero was a squad leader for 3-2, and I was filling in under Petco when he was a team leader. And it was really strange for me because I hadn't really played ArmA in quite a while. It'd been a couple of years, but I still retained all of the training that I got. And I still retained all the like information that I had. Plus, I played Full Spectrum Warrior, played Brothers in Arms. Like I understand like the fundamental, like the rules of the fundamentals of what we do.
Right.
Shoot, fire, maneuver. One team moves, one team presses. Everyone cover your sector. Blah blah blah. And I was there as a specialist. I was just filling in, and like as I'm there, I'm like, hey man, we should be going this way, or we should be like I felt I had to like shut myself up because I wasn't in charge, and I started having that itch again, like I want to fucking yell orders
So
really
hard
badly
to
right now.
control, right? So hard to control that.
Oh,
Yeah,
and we do the same. I mean, I know I do the same thing. Like, hey, we should move over here. We should be checking this out. We should probably fucking clear this. And sometimes they're like, yeah, go ahead. And other times they're like, no, we were told to sit here.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to sit here and twiddle my dick for the next fucking 20 minutes while you decide to get an original fucking thought in your head.
I did that too. I mean, as a medic, I do that. Like, I haven't, obviously I haven't played ArmA in a couple months, but one of the last times I played, I was filling in as a medic for 1-4, and Lindsay was running the training, but Margie was a squad leader, and Margie was on his tablet, I think, or his Android, and he was trying to, figure some shit out, and he's like in the open. I'm like, I had to yell at him. I'm like, Mark, you stop whatever you're doing. You need to come back here in this fucking defilade. You need to stop what you're doing and step back.
Get the fuck out of that open field.
Because I'm not gonna be dragging your ass back.
Yeah, I can. Like I said, I obviously have been in those situations where, I'm filling in, and it's like, hey, we need to do this. It's me giving a recommendation, but it's more so like, if you want to fucking live, we need to fucking do this. And sometimes, they listen, sometimes they don't. The only downside is oftentimes I get the feeling that guys will listen simply because it's me or Drum or Hammer saying it. It's like, oh, well, it's fucking Command saying, hey, we should check out this building. I better do it so I don't get yelled at. And it's like, dude, it's not a matter of getting yelled at. Like, you need to understand why we are saying we need to go clear this building, or why we need to push 20 meters over here and fucking clear out this position because we just got engaged from there and dropped one guy. We don't know if there's anybody else hiding back there. Like, you need to understand that shit of why we are telling you to go fucking do this. Thinking that, oh, I better do it so I don't get yelled at is a stupid fucking response. Like, that should not be why you give the go ahead to do something, or say, yeah, let's go do that. Like
That's how I deal with my
no.
wife.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, they've missed the entire point. Now they're no longer bettering themselves or learning in that position.
Yeah, exactly. And it's, and that's actually, talking about Jocko a while ago, that's something that he talked about on his podcast. Like, if you're not learning, what's the point? It doesn't matter what position you're in. If you're not attempting to learn from what is going on around you, why the fuck are you there?
Yep. Wholeheartedly.
Yeah, and it makes sense. But, again, some people just don't see it that way and don't realize, oh, hey, he's probably telling me that we need to do this because, of this. And, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, we got engaged from there, whatever. Because it's not like I'm going to sit there for fucking 10 minutes during a fucking operation and be like, hey, this is why we need to go over here. This is why we need to clear from here to here and need to move in this fashion and so on and so forth. Like, I don't have time for that. It's, hey, we should go do this. Okay, yeah, let's do it. And hopefully they fucking understand why it is we're doing it and they don't just fucking agree out of fear,
Right.
God damn it, we went off on a rant again. Or I did.
Number 17.
Yeah. So that's gonna wrap it up for the podcast tonight. Like I said, next week probably we'll do a little bit of story time to kind of, I guess, alleviate some questions that guys have had and stuff as far as what I did or stuff like that, so they can understand a little bit more some of my background and stuff and so on. And yeah, hopefully that'll mean when in the future in chat when people fucking ask whatever, you guys can fucking answer them because I don't have time to. But yeah, that's gonna wrap it up for the podcast tonight. Do not forget that if you want to be involved in the podcast, somewhat like the asshats that are in here with me right now, to check out the Patreon page. You can get involved in the podcast, whether it be simply sending in topics that you want to hear opinions on, or even being a guest on the podcast. Then you can get involved via Patreon if you're not one of the lucky few or unlucky few, depending upon how you look at it, that I call and say, hey, come be on the podcast. So any last minute words of wisdom from you gentlemen before we wrap it up for tonight?
Words of wisdom. Well, shit. Now that
Yeah, I know
that
it's the
kind of
wrong
expectation.
it's the wrong group to be asking that.
I mean,
Are you ready
mentioned
for
that
another
it's-
podcast right now?
Oh fuck yeah, let's go. I mentioned that it's June 6th, so keep all bear in mind that D-Day did happen 74 years ago. So,
That is true. Jesus Christ,
Yes.
I feel like an
Yeah,
asshat
Yep.
for not even
That's
realizing
yeah.
that today is
Yeah,
today's the 6th.
bear
Yeah.
that in mind.
Today was a fucking important goddamn day, and at that, even fucking, especially for that of the 506th. Yeah, shit, I can't believe I
Yeah.
didn't even realize it was the 6th.
According to Activision, today is the day that the Germans defended the beaches with PSSHs and Russian
Yeah.
submachine guns.
Right. Oh, Jesus
You weren't there,
Christ.
so don't fucking say anything, okay?
Yeah, you don't know, man.
If
Motherfuckers
you feel
totally
bad,
had
yeah.
Russian machine guns on the Western Front in 1944.
If
I
I
do
could,
what I'm gonna do later and watch Saving Private Ryan. It's a fucking great movie.
oh yeah, it's a good
Yep,
idea.
yep.
I was actually going to start fucking Band of Brothers again tonight, so I guess that's pretty fitting.
Oh, snap.
I watched it last night. I started watching it again last night. I wanted to mention for the few followers that I haven't streamed in like a month. I was without a computer for a while. I finally had that remedied, but now I've started a new job finally on Monday. So I've been like sleeping and working and sleeping and working. So I will get
How
my stream
dare
going
you.
again.
I
but
meant to
I'm
ask you, is your new PC, are you capable of streaming? Like, does it have the horsepower to do it?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's the AMD equivalent of like an i5 and like a 1060, like a 3 gig 1060.
Okay.
So it's the AMD equivalent of that. But yeah, I can stream.
Okay. And I did want to mention real quick before we wrap up tonight. I don't know how many of you guys follow the podcast that Patty does with Shank and DJ and Siri. It's called the Safeties Off Podcast. They do it every Friday at 20:30 Eastern. They are back to doing that. They had a couple weeks off. DJ had his baby boy, and huge congratulations to DJ on that, having his first son. Very, very happy for him. Very fucking awesome guy and deserves nothing but happiness with that baby. But they will be back at it this Friday at 20:30. And from what Patty tells me, DJ might be hosting it. That may change. Either way, I'll be auto hosting it here. Again, Friday at 20:30. So, you can come here and see whose channel it is, and then just go to their channel and actually, talk and chat with the rest of us. I'll be hanging out in chat, trying to kill Shank with an asthma attack as per usual. But seriously, if you guys even remotely like my podcast, go check out those guys doing the Safeties Off podcast. It is fucking hilarious every time. Shank generally makes me laugh like a little bitch every week. So definitely go check that out. And I know Loster, you hang out in there and check it out as well.
Yeah, last week was my first time there, and I almost killed Shank.
Yeah,
Making him laugh.
it was so good. It's a great time every single week that they do it. Always a really good laugh. So yeah, make sure you guys, come by here Friday at 20:30, check and see whose channel it is, and then go fucking watch it on their channel so you can actually chat to them and shit. And yeah, that's going to wrap it up for tonight. So thank you guys for hanging out for what is the 34th podcast in the series. Hopefully you guys enjoyed.
We gotta talk about Clerks on the 37th.
Oh, absolutely. That's a must. In fact, we'll probably dedicate the entire episode to Kevin Smith, which would be easy for me to do. I can easily talk for like 4 hours about Kevin Smith shit.
Especially with all the shit that's been going on with him.
Yeah,
Loster's
I know.
not even supposed to be there that day.
Right? Pretty sure Loster's not supposed to be there any day. Well, I don't know. I see Loster more as Randall, just not quite as outspoken as Randall. But yeah, so
I am just as lazy though.
yeah. Where do we keep the cleaning products?
You're kidding? It's almost 11:30.
Or no, it was we have cleaning products. But so yeah, that's gonna wrap it up for tonight, guys. Thank you again for hanging out. Hopefully you enjoyed. We should have a squirrel mission coming up here in a little bit, I believe. We'll see how many people show up. And then we'll be back at it Saturday for OSUT and Task Force Charlie. So,
Oh yeah.
we will hopefully see you guys that Saturday. Later.